You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right. We are live. Some technical difficulties coming off of a little break. I guess we lost our stride there, Tux. I'm sick. You're having
just 1 week off. Can't even take a week off.
We fell apart. But yeah, well deserved rest, I think, right? We Monerotopia was epic.
It was very long.
It was an epic journey. Yeah, man. What was your take? I'm sure we'll get into it with everybody, but what was your
It was definitely a lot better this year. I bought stuff for Monero multiple times at the marketplace, like food and chocolate, which is really good. And there's this guy selling this like custom like sweet peanut butter, and he had like these peanut butter bites. Nice. Those are really good. And I bought those with Monero, which was great. That was cool. There was definitely, I know you worked hard on getting the vendors onboarded, and it did work. It did work fairly well, other than the Monero related challenges, which are, I mean, things with Monero that we have to deal with anyway. Yeah. It was pretty cool. The conference overall was pretty long, but
yeah, I think we had it working a lot smoother than last year. Once we had the nodos going, people connected.
The nodos helped for sure, because I remember several people coming to me. I was like the cake support guy while I was there, and then people coming to me like, "Oh, it's not syncing," and I just quickly hooked them up to the nodo that was on the local network, and then it synced pretty quickly for them, and it was fine. So it helped out a lot for sure, because the internet situation there it's not great. But having the nodo ready to go on the local network was a very good idea, and it did help out a lot for sure.
That was my highlight. I'm sure we'll get into all of it more. We'll make that the theme of the show today, because we actually don't have a special guest. So today's theme is a debriefing of Monerotopia. Tux and I just basically did it, but now we'll continue to do it for the next four hours, as we do here at Monerotopia. We'll have price report with Bawdy, and then we'll do some news, and we'll do a viewers on stage, and anybody that wants to jump up that was at the conference, that was watching it remotely, come give us your feedback, your perspective. There are definitely a lot of different things going. Like, there were so many different worlds happening in Monerotopia. Like, you could have been in the dome, you could have been out in the marketplace, you could have been back hanging out in the back in the chicken area with like where all the projects were like there was all these different worlds, right? So like people had different experiences. I was constantly running around, so I didn't really get to experience the talks as much as I wanted to, because I'm constantly trying to put out fires. So I still have to go back now and watch all the talks. I mean, I think there were some really good talks happening in that dome.
Yeah, I certainly caught. I didn't catch as many as I'd like to, but I definitely did see a fair amount of talks. There's a lot. It was hard to keep up with because it was a lot. But hopefully they'll all be uploaded soon, so that everyone else can see the ones that they missed.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna do it different this year. I mean, last year it took us forever to get them up, and we were putting them up one at a time. This year, I think we'll put them up. We'll like broadcast them again. So we'll broadcast all 4 days again in a row. Like, we'll premiere it so everybody can like kind of rewatch it live together. And we'll just put them up 4 days. But I don't know when we'll be ready for that, but shouldn't take too long. Got some questions here, guys. Don't forget to use XMRchat.com/Monero. Well, we just made a Monerotopia one too, actually. We've been using Monero Talk, right? Traditionally.
Yes.
Wait, are we connected to? I don't even know what we're connected to right now. I think we're connected to the Monerotopia one. Guys, give it a test. Send a super chat to XMRchat.com/Monerotopia. Yeah.
If they're both connected to the same Twitch account, then I guess either of them could be used.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah, that we had an issue with. So we'll get into it more, but that was one of the things we need to fix is the virtual conference. It was better in ways, but we weren't engaging with the audience enough because we didn't have a good system going there.
It was hard to do because it was the streamer's computer that got the actual super chat, and then they'd have to pull it up. But it happened one time during my talk. It was Serai.
It could have been. It wasn't an issue that couldn't have been fixed. We just didn't use a good system there. So we should have had that fixed. And then we didn't have the XMRchat.com/Monerotopia wasn't working because we weren't technically live, right? Whenever we do this show, we're live. So we were trying to do the super chats, have them stream, but without them going public on Twitch. Without the stream going public on Twitch. So it was kind of like we had to do a workaround because we didn't want the stream to be. So it took a little finagling to figure that out. But yeah, other than that, everything was freaking on point. We had some issues with content. I won't get into that now, but there were some points on the stage where things that shouldn't have been said at didn't need to be said at a Monerotopia conference that just caused unnecessary drama. But other than that, it was freaking awesome. So we'll get into it. Anybody that wants to jump up on stage later, please do. Give us your take on Monerotopia. But we'll kick it off with Bawdy on the price report.
All right, let's do it.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Bawdy GM.
Bawdy. What's going on, man?
So great to reconnect with you after this long hiatus.
Yeah, I know. It was like we were like on a ship together at sea on an adventure.
Yeah, man, the conference was fire this year. I mean, it was good last year, but I felt like it was just even better this year.
Yeah, it was. I guess because it was bigger, right? We had new faces too. We had new energy. And I do think the marketplace thing played a bigger role in it this time, because we were more successful with that. Yeah,
just knowing ahead of time that I was going to be able to. I mean, I kind of we sort of knew ahead of time, but just being more comfortable with it. Oh yeah, all the vendors take it. There's this one guy selling craft beer, and I was just cleaning him out. I still got to share with him how to get out of Monero. He was like, "Hey, how do I get back into pesos?" It's
he's been asking you.
He hasn't. He has my WhatsApp number, so I'm kind of caught. Should I volunteer? Because there's ways and means. They're not entirely corporate in nature. But there's ways to get into pesos and out of pesos here. Yeah. But I'm like, well, I don't know. He hasn't asked me yet, so
it's funny because I'm in a WhatsApp chat with all the vendors.
Nice.
Because I was onboarding them manually using ChatGPT, talking to them in anticipation of the conference and walking each one through and getting them to download the wallet beforehand. So now it's they're continuing to ask me questions. It's I kind of invented a little Monero hotline it's not a bad idea to have like some kind of auto chat GPT Monero helpline.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
actually, yeah,
interesting.
that's not a bad idea.
That's
If
actually
you
a great
train
use
it
for
on
AI.
Cake Wallet's interface,
Yeah.
then it can explain
I'm
everything.
basically doing it through WhatsApp. It would be good to like build something that could be built into a WhatsApp because, for our purposes, South America, everybody's on WhatsApp, so it'd be very accessible.
Yeah, I'm slightly annoyed by that because I just hate WhatsApp. I mean, obviously it's Facebook owned,
Yeah.
etc. But it's just like it doesn't work as well as Telegram. Like if you're gonna, surrender all your data and stuff, like Telegram's just easier.
Yeah. I'm just the network effect. Everybody in South America uses WhatsApp.
Yeah, it's too late. Telegram is a shitcoin for them to use maximalist kind of language.
To be fair, at this point, I prefer WhatsApp over Telegram because it is end-to-end encrypted by default. But yeah, Telegram is nicer to use.
Yeah, and also they didn't kick you off or WhatsApp.
And yeah, I never. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they do. I don't know. I've only made a WhatsApp recently. See, I'm not going to use it for much at all. It was mostly for talking to people who was at the conference. We'll see.
But this is pretty amazing right here, right? This is like a lot of the value of the conference is right here because now we could continue to talk to all these vendors, continue to teach them. It's really just, we talk about like how do we get actual real world adoption? It's just education. It's just people just having to get on the same level that we're at, and that's just really taking time with them to teach them. They've already experienced Monero, right? They've received some Monero. Some of them kept Monero. Now they just need to be taught as to why it might make sense to continue to use it. And really what they need to be taught is just how to liquidate it when they need to. Like it does, like they were buying it off of us there, but they should be able to walk away from there confidently knowing, all right, I don't need to liquidate it now, but I can very easily get into pesos if I need to. Here's how I do it, right? Like it's not that big a leap. It's just education, right? They need to be able to use like the instant exchanges in Cake or buying gift cards, even going so far as to using Havino, right? Why not like get them at that level? You get what I'm saying? This is kind of like my big takeaway with the conference is if we want to scale it to the next level and actual gross like steady use and adoption at Huerta Roma, we just need to get the vendors to learn more about Monero to the point where they're perfectly comfortable with always receiving it as an option. And they're like, okay, I have some Monero. I know how to quickly turn it into pesos if I need to, but I'm totally okay with receiving it. And we get them to that point, and then they're just always open to receiving Monero throughout the year. And then the Monerotopia conference comes down there once a year and kind of re-rallies things up. But it becomes a place that's like known globally where you can go and spend some Monero. This is the thinking, the vision. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm down. I think it's a reasonably good vision. Like the guy that was selling that craft beer, I'm gonna see if I can convince him to, because he comes to my town every now and then, so I'm gonna see if I can convince him to accept Monero for a few cases of craft beer every now and again.
Cool.
I found a guy that sold honey, but I didn't have much time, so I was like, hey, here's some pesos, and bought some honey off him, but I didn't try and like onboard him to Monero.
Yeah, I mean, they also have every week they have going in there like really good farmers markets. So I mean, you if we make Monero part of Huerta Roma culture, you're having like the best marketplaces you can find, like accepting Monero. Like if you think about it, if you think about places you could go in the world where you could, buy things directly, it's pretty cool. It's all like handcrafted quality things. And then they have really good farmers markets during the week, like really good produce that you see coming in. It would be pretty desirable. And
Yeah,
it's
there's
in a
quite a lot
major
of people, obviously, too, here in Mexico that would be
and it's,
interested
yeah,
in
it's in a
purchasing
major
things.
city that's globally accessible. You know, people will fly in from Germany just to go spend time in Roma because they know they could spend their Monero there. You know, it's like very accessible. I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there with trying to focus on it as a little Monero accepting utopia. I mean, if it can't work there, right? Where could it work? I guess like Argentina or something, right?
Yeah, it feels like Argentina. I mean, really, it feels like Argentina is like. I mean, obviously, there's no reason we can't do multiple spots at the same time, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious how that dollarization process goes in Argentina, and if they're gonna sort of ditch crypto a little bit as they dollarize, like more formally. Right now, they haven't formally dollarized to any degree. They're just kind of like still informally. But I think that's still the plan, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the U.S. government wants.
Fairly reasonable. Saying Portugal, yeah, that's on the top of my list too.
Oh, that'd be a really cool spot.
That could start organically accepting it. Obviously, Prague, right? They have MoneroCon there. It's kind of taking hold a little bit.
Yeah, how is that? So people, the MoneroCon, does it enjoy some kind of persistent Monero presence after the conference?
I think so, like locally, yeah. I mean, I think the cafe continues to accept it there.
Yeah, the cafe, they have these little terminals that just use BTC Pay. So it's like accepted whenever. I mean, that's just kind of the place it is. It's kind of like a hacker space anyway. It's not as cool as like some local business that just like some restaurant that just happens to accept crypto. But it's a cafe and bar that I guess they do year round. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think they do.
I think they do. Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get into it more. I see we have Alaskan on ready to jump on. We'll be talking about this all afternoon, but I guess let's do price report.
Yeah, let's knock out the price here.
Take it away, buddy.
Oh
yeah, let's look at our terrible, awful predictions that all went to the toilet.
Yeah.
Right
Dude,
before
Monero, like that was the other thing about Monerotopia. Like we're just getting hammered in price. Like all other cryptos are going up, and Monero is just getting only in Monero land. It
kind of makes sense because people are using
constant struggle.
People are spending their Monero on flights and on coin cards and all kinds of stuff, right? So we're spending money at the conference and leading up into the conference. So it really kind of makes sense. Yeah, we took a nice dip. That's what this whole that's part of what this dip is right here.
We use it, we win, guys. Wow, yeah. Look at our predictions. Oh my god. We'll get there.
Yeah. Our transactions actually went up. Let's see. I was looking at the raw values. Let's go to the raw values. Yeah, so we're kind of basically just below that 30K level for the past I guess for about the past week or so. So that's pretty good, I guess, right? There's a slight bump up here. It's hard to call this sustained, but it is longer than, it does feel a little bit more sustained perhaps than other moves. All of this obviously being the potential black marble attack or just the stress testing or whatever happened there that we talked about so much. But yeah, I mean, like maybe this can continue, right? Like we've got the bull market going on. Obviously we had Monerotopia happen, but we still seem to be around that 30,000 mark. So who knows? Maybe we can actually keep a higher level of transactions. One thing I was doing was just checking out the moving averages because
send those XMR chats, guys. Send those XMR chats. You can send
by all means
1 cent.
Yeah, so for a long time, if you look back to the beginning of Monero's history, we had this kind of like we were going up, and then we kind of peaked out here in 2021 and took a little bit of a dip. So let's zoom in a little bit. Took a little bit of a dip on the transaction counts for a while, and it looks like we're ever so slightly in an uptrend again. It might be a little bit early to call this an uptrend, but it does look a little bit like that. So perhaps we can break that 30,000 threshold on the long-term moving averages, and then maybe go higher. Right, that would be nice. But I guess Monero will tell us all when it wants to do that, right? When it's ready. As far as the price for Monero versus US dollar, nothing has happened. We took a dip during the conference and then came back up. Currently, I mean, it does feel like we're ever so slightly above the traditional stablecoin price of 150. Right? We're at 160, so we've almost moved 10%. You know, on average. At some point, again, like we've talked about, this chart's going to break towards the upside. I redrew this line a little bit. I extended this line. So ever since the Binance delisting back in January, there's been like kind of the bottom has kept like touching this line. So maybe this line acts as support now. It would be far less significant in my mind than just the standard deviations, right? The blue bands here, the orange bands here, right? Those are very, very firmly set at this point. But, you know, volatility is constraining. At some point, Monero price is going to break one direction or the other. Obviously, it seems to me, you know, we're in a bull market. Eventually, that is going to be towards the upside. I think everybody here knows that when the cabal pumps the crypto prices, they don't send it to Monero. It's exactly like when the cabal pumps the stock market, they don't send it into gold. They're not interested in helping gold. They want to suppress it as much as possible. And we have the documentation. We know that these guys have talked about, hey, what's one of the early easiest things we can do to you know, to stop Monero, to try and suppress Monero? Price attacks was their number one thing. Because they don't want to look like they're attacking Monero, right? And I feel like, you know, all the delisting stuff was them push coming to shove. Effectively, they're like, hey, all right, we've got to find a way to keep the price down. We've got to find a way to keep people away from Monero. We've got to delist it now because I think Monero was starting to reach kind of maybe critical threshold in terms of reputation, in terms of usage, in terms of just everybody knowing about it in crypto, right? Because there was a lot of people that either didn't know about it or hadn't really heard much about it. I think the entire crypto space now knows about Monero pretty much for the most part, you know, except for kind of like the total normies that are like, oh yeah, I bought some Doge because it seems like I like dogs. So except for those kind of guys, like the rest of the actual crypto ecosystem knows about Monero and basically respects it. If Monerotopia this year didn't show that, I mean, it was incredible, man. There were so many people there. We have so many more big names now that just weren't into Monero previously, and now they are. So yeah, I mean, all that ties together. It seems to me that you know, the cabal is now entering to a more overt attack stage against Monero, whereas the last bull market, it was basically a covert attack. So anyways, you know, that's kind of a long-winded way of saying that, yeah, I mean, our ratio against Bitcoin here is suffering. My heart is suffering. You know, I play shitcoin, so my bags are fine, but you know, my heart suffers. This is painful, right, to watch this happen. I guess, you know, it wouldn't be entirely surprising to end up tagging these lows down here, right? These lows from back in 2015, 2016. That's really unfortunate. You know, cue all the arguments from the maximalists, right? From the price bros that apparently only care about their bags. You know, I think it's funny when I'm always prepared with charts when they start like, oh, well, you know, it's a shitcoin and look at the chart. It's like, okay, well, let me show you Bitcoin versus Nvidia, right? let me show you Bitcoin versus Sol, right? And it's like, if you want to make that your argument, you know, then you got to abandon Bitcoin and go to Sol is apparently the play there. So anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, bros. What are we going to do? Like, this looks like shit. This chart looks like dog shit. And it looks like it is probably going to continue to go down. The wave magic would suggest that Monero price is going to continue to go down, right? These bands are already curling under. Usually you might tag these bands at some point and then continue down sort of in between this red, right? That'll curl under. These will move down like that. And then you'll see price wander on down until it hits some low. Probably that 0.0001 level. That's probably where you can expect us to hit now at this point. You know, there's a lot of this, you know, will change and get influenced by this macro crash, this this claimed macro crash that I've been, you know, talking about. You know, my window here was basically sometime from the election up until January 20th. That's like my sweet spot where I expect, you know, my like most probable macro crash, right? So that it could still be 2 months away or almost 2 months away before we get this thing. So, you know, just keep that in mind. The current trends of the market are likely to continue until we get this macro crash. And then to me, that macro crash is free money, right? That's where you go high risk, because in reality, that risk drops massively, almost to zero, right? Risk drops to near zero when you get a macro crash plus intervention. So I want to be careful with this too, guys. Like, I want you guys to really understand, when the macro crash happens, it usually takes like a month before things bottom. I think those timelines accelerate now because because people are aware of this now. So when the macro crash happens and then the Fed intervenes in the emergency monetary measures and everyone like breathes a sigh of relief, it still might take a couple weeks for the full bottom to hit, right? So just keep that in mind when you're like thinking about your strategy. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. We did have a question from Sex Workers Matter. He says, thanks to Bawdy for his fantastic prices report in situ on X. A question though, are we simply to DCA as normal, or should we set aside a significant capital to anticipate the move down and buy at a significant percentage retracement? Yeah, there's actually a very specific strategy I have for that. It's a simple strategy, and I'll tell you guys about that in a little bit. Actually, you know what? Why don't we just tell you about it right now? So, Sex Workers Matter. The best thing I think is to sort of divide your stack into thirds. Okay, 1/3 you just DCA, right? Just no brainer. Okay, I have extra money. And let me rephrase this: 1/3 of your investable income, right? So every month you're going to get paid something. You have expenses, and then you're going to have something left over. That's your investable income. Divide that into thirds. 1/3 of that just DCA all the time, like just no brainer, just fucking DCA every single time. The other third of that, what you do is you kind of play with it. If it's a good time to buy, if the market's low, if there's blood in the streets, then you buy, right? You just DCA right there. But if things are high or they're on a big pump, you might say, yeah, you know what? Let me just set this cash aside a little bit here. And, I might wait a couple weeks on a retracement, something, but your goal is to get into the market with that other third. You're just trying to play it a little bit smartly, right? And then finally, that last third, you set it aside, right? You set that aside as either a trading stack. In this case, I would say set it aside as cash. Take that third and set it aside and just hold it as cash, or not even gold, right? Because gold crashes with the rest of the macro when the macro crash happens. So set that aside as cash, just waiting for this macro crash to happen. And that's specifically at this moment right now. I wouldn't have told you to do that at the beginning of the year, but at this moment, I think that's a good thing to do. So that 1/3, that last third, is basically like a trading stack, right? You might buy, you might sell, you might move, make some moves, whatever, try and do some trading jujitsu. But in general, in this moment, I think it's a good idea to save cash for that macro crash, because that is where you're like, there's this concept called risk adjusted returns. And a lot of the big finance bros do this because, you might make big returns on some shitcoin, but that was extreme risk, right? So it's like, in some ways, you have to adjust your returns for the amount of risk that you took. So if you got massive gains on very little risk, that's an even bigger gain than it might seem, right? Or even if you got moderate gains on near zero risk, that kind of return is actually significantly more, which is why I really have placed a lot of emphasis on this macro crash personally, because it's like, I hate taking risk, right? Like, I want to protect my stack. And so one of the ways I do that is by really trying not to trade too much and buying little bits of high risk stuff at the right moments, and then hoping that I can catch a 2x or 5x or something. That's sort of the way that my personal, quote unquote trading investment strategy has evolved. Anyways, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question there. Let me check the super chats here, make sure the XMR chats. I'm sorry, they are not. I mean, they are also super, but okay, there's nothing there. Okay, so we covered Monero. Nothing else going on there. Monero versus gold, as we talked about, Monero versus gold is still just kind of trending inside of these the standard deviations, the shorter term lower standard deviation and the longer term lower standard deviation. So nothing to see there really. I guess if we want to look at more pain, if we're interested in having more pain, this is Monero versus shitcoins, right? Monero versus Total 3, which is Total 3 is total cryptocurrency market cap minus Bitcoin minus Ethereum, right? Minus daddy and mommy. So yeah, we're also doing pretty shitty compared to those guys as well. It's just part of the game, guys. Like, this is part of the fight. This is part of the war that you have to expect, right? We saw it last bull market. It should be no surprise for us to see this again. We want to be hopeful. We want to think, hey, now is our time to shine. But when you're printing a cool $1 billion of Tether every week, no problem, and the United States government is like, hey, Tether, you will buy our bonds now. That money is not going into Monero, guys. It's going to go into Bitcoin, the state-supported, state-sponsored chain. It's going to go into Ethereum, which probably will also become, the state-sponsored chain soon enough. It's going to go into shitcoins, right? So just know that's the game. Don't cry yourself to sleep at night. Stand tall and keep going. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's go ahead and take a look at the privacy coins as well. Xano, surprisingly, has not pumped with the rest of the market. But hey, maybe not too surprisingly, right? Because again, if Xano is really a project that has some utility in the privacy space, I don't think the government's going to want to pump that coin either. I think Xano has made these gains on the basis of organic investors. So that would be my take on why Xano has sort of leveled off here while the rest of the market pumped. But really cry that hard, I mean, you got a shitload of gains right here, all the way up to the top. It's just consolidating, guys. This will start moving. One thing that'll probably happen is, the privacy bros will get their shitcoin gains elsewhere, and then eventually they'll rotate into Monero. So Monero will eventually see, and Xano, and by proxy, other good crypto projects, they will see, move. But like we've said, in fits and starts, it'll happen counter-cyclically in fits and starts. So just be aware of that. Let's see here. Checking the comments. HBAR did a 3x. Okay, maybe we'll take a look at HBAR. It has nothing to do with privacy, but yeah, we'll take a look there. I don't remember what I said about HBAR, to be honest. If you want to remind me, I think I said that it was probably a bottoming pattern. I'm pretty sure I said that. Okay, anyways, Furo actually broke out, right? Furo had it was kind of in this pennant, in this I guess pennants are for when things are at the top, but this was at the bottom. Anyways, this thing broke out, and let's kind of move here. 40%. Yeah, that's pretty good. So Furo is getting back into their standard deviation bands. They've actually moved out of it. Usually on these charts, I expect them to make the blue bands, right? So this thing, it kind of did already. Actually, if you take a look at that little guy right there kind of did make it already. So I don't know. I haven't really heard anyone talk about Furo, so I'm not even sure we have Furo investors here. Pyrotane, they managed to get a good little pump here out of the recent action. That's suspicious to me, right? Any privacy coins that are right, this thing is pumping, but Monero isn't pumping, and Xano isn't pumping. Like, that is sus to me, but it is such a small coin that I feel like it's probably easy to move around. So to me, this is sus. It means that the guys that are kind of in control of this coin are probably there's probably some background person that made this happen. Anyways, I think that was like a 2x, 150%, 2.5. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe this thing can continue. The one that's really crazy to me here is Zcash, right? Zcash pumps pretty bigly, 60%. Yeah, I mean the chart looks good, right? The wave magic was already curling up, the blue bands were curling up, so this was actually, especially at a point like either right here, and especially at a point like right here, that would have been easy long if you were, if you wanted to trade that. So at the moment, I would say it looks like it's got some resistance here. It's at the clusters of moving averages. That's those white bands right here. You would say on a long-term basis in a bullish scenario, which it's hard to say that we're not in a bullish scenario, you would expect this chart to try and make it to the blue bands to the top side here. So that would be about another 80%. So that could be a swing trade. Just know that this thing might, it might pull back, or maybe it just goes straight there. As long as you don't take leverage on this coin, you just buy it outright. You could probably hope to catch, at least like 50 to 80% there. And then we can look at the Monero versus the Zcash price. This one is also kind of sad, just a lot of sad faces today on the charts. What can I say? Yeah, I mean, we've lost a good bit of value relative to the corporately approved, supported, and sponsored shitcoin. I'm sorry to call it a shitcoin. It has interesting tech, Zcash bros, but I mean, this is extremely, again, it's just suspect. It's so suspect. Why does Zcash pump but not Monero? There's no transactions. No one's using it on the dark web. They don't have a big fucking conference every year. Like, how is this thing pumping but Monero isn't? It just screams manipulation. It just screams nefarious actors in the background. Okay, whatever. We lost 70% relative to Zcash, but I mean, look at the full history of this chart, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, I guess that's not too big a deal. Same thing happened last bull market. Alrighty. So I think that's about what we've got here for the privacy coins today. We'll take a look at HBAR here in a second, but first, let's talk about Bitcoin, right? Obviously, we want to talk about Bitcoin. So hopefully you guys can see all of the purple bands. The purple bands was kind of a reason why this is probably a month or two ago now. Actually, the last time that we talked, was it? There was a moment where we talked and we said, hey, these bands are curling up. This is like actually very bullish wave magic. Oh, that's right. It was the election. One of the reasons that that 100K was a big prominent spot in my mind was because of these purple bands, right? Because the top of these purple bands do tend to provide resistance. So right now, and also 100K is just like a nice big round number. Everyone's like, hey, 100K Christmas, right? Finally, y'all got it. Congratulations, Maxi Bros. You 100K 3 years later. I wonder how many more of their price predictions will eventually come true. Anyway, so Bitcoin is taking a little breather right here. It could definitely, especially if the macro crash doesn't happen towards, you know, the middle of January, it could continue running, like hypothetically. After some consolidation, it could continue running. Although what we have seen for the past year or so is effectively you get these massive pumps to the upside, right? You smash, and then you find a spot, and then you just languish, you know, you just sideways until you break it again. That's been the name of the game here in the Bitcoin price action for at least a year, almost 2 years now. Let's take a look here. Let's go backwards. Yeah, for 2 years now. So, you know, I don't really have a strong opinion exactly on how long this thing will languish. But at the moment, this is quite bullish. Like in terms of the wave magic action, like this is even more bullish than the kind of action that we had seen previously since the bottom, right? Obviously, we're looking here at 2022 now at the very bottom. This action was like cautiously optimistic, right? But what has happened recently has been unequivocally bullish, right? You had this big pump towards the all-time high, a long consolidation period until looky right here, the upper standard deviations. That's where the support was found, right? These upper standard deviation bands is exactly where that support was found. And then you come to the shorter term bands, and those things curl up more quickly, right? Because they respond faster to price movements. And this whole thing is bullish now. Like it's just very bullish. Even in a big crash scenario, like let's suppose there's a macro crash or whatever that we keep talking about. Even in that scenario, I don't expect we're going to the lower regression analysis. We're not touching that. Like we've come as close as we're going to come to it. In a macro crash scenario, at worst, I would expect to maybe hit here or maybe hit here, right? That would be a big dump, of course. Let's see how far down that would be. Let's do a measurement. 50%. Yeah, I mean, 50% down would be what you would expect for a macro crash. But yeah, I mean, I would expect it to touch one of these major areas somewhere in this area, and then move back towards the upside, and that might be the last time that you ever see 50K. So yeah, that's what coin looks like right now. I don't have any strong opinions on whether it continues to go immediately or whether it needs some like consolidation period. Maybe I'm hoping I can form some more opinions at some point here, but I don't have a good solid reasoning behind it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Effectively, Bitcoin dominance came very close to the upper standard deviation levels here. These are like very, very long-term ones. You can see that they were formed back in 2021, right? So when Bitcoin spiked up crazy high on the dominance back in 2020, the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, and then came back down, right? I don't know if we're at exactly the point for altcoins to just completely go on a tear. This channel here, right? I don't know if you can see that. Let me zoom in. This channel right here, and I kind of redrew the line a little bit. I redrew this upper line, but basically Bitcoin dominance is sitting here in this channel. It's reasonable that it might come up to the top side one more time here to tag that. Maybe that's when things break 100K, right? I think that'll be a lot of peace in people's mind to break 100K, and then maybe, you know, close a couple weeks above 100K. That will make people feel a lot more comfortable. Also, you know, we'll be looking at Tether maybe to see what they're up to. Yeah, because I mean, we've talked about the Tether milkshake, right? Tether is effectively now an extension of US dollar power in the wake of the expiration of the petrodollar of the Saudi agreement. It's a genius move. It's a brilliant fucking move, guys. And they started it. They planned it out from probably as early as 2019. It's smart. It's definitely supporting price, right? It definitely helps price. It definitely detracts from actually being used as currency. You know, what are you going to do? At the moment, it also seems like MicroStrategy is playing a moment. Looks like we got a comment from Fairly Reasonable Investor. He's talking about MicroStrategy. Yeah, it does seem like they are doing a little bit of leverage. They're leveraging their stock to buy more Bitcoin. I want to say they bought like 100,000 Bitcoin. I think that's the number. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, they're doing a lot to support price right here. It's a bit of a gamble. I feel like Michael Saylor he seems like Fed Boy to me. Like, you know, he seems like either he's an agent or he loves being useful to those guys, right? Who knows? He just seems like he's part of that cabal. He's in the club. He is a big part of the way that they're integrating Bitcoin into the government, the way that they're integrating the Bitcoin Tether complex into the extension of the US dollar power in the crypto ecosystem, the backdoor CBDC, the quasi CBDC, you know, all that kind of language. So anyways, yeah, there's Bitcoin today. Let's take a look at some of the shit coins. What are they up to? XRP has pumped bigly. That makes sense. You know, they kind of their bull market action got muted a little bit last time because they were getting attacked by the SEC, but Gary Gensler tendered his resignation. So, you know, you can expect some of these projects that were being attacked, they should get this sort of like bump here from the SEC changeover that is anticipated now. And then maybe when Trump actually takes office, you know, maybe they'll get a further bump. That would make sense. I don't know. Maybe XRP continues running. Maybe it doesn't. But yeah, so this is what shitcoins look like. Kind of a mixed bag. I mean, they're all basically, you know, everything pumped pretty good and things are cooling off here, but there's still a few of them that are still kind of pumping. You know, like XRP, this action tells me that it's, I'm not looking at the actual price chart here, but the way that Z-scores work, you know, you've got peak, peak, peak. Every one of these peaks can often be a new high in the price. So probably XRP is actually flying quite high at the moment. Dog coins, they've actually, looks like they pulled back quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, really the time to get into shit coins is that moment when Bitcoin is starting to fly high. That's really your best opportunity there. Yeah, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, you know, this chart has been in the dumps. Maybe it's bottoming here. You know, this wouldn't be clean wave magic action if it was a bottom, but it hypothetically it could be. I would guess in a macro crash that this line will actually get touched right down here. This will actually get touched cleanly. Ethereum will crash more than Bitcoin, probably touch this, and then, you know, some reversal will happen after an intervention or whatever. But who knows? I mean, maybe they can't intervene, right? Maybe there's an inflation problem, right? If they intervene again, maybe there's too much inflation, so maybe they have to like mini intervene, right? I don't know. That's just kind of like brainstorming open thoughts there. That's not a fully formed thought for you guys. Okay, Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ. We can see that Bitcoin has finally put on a new all-time high versus the NASDAQ. Well, actually, I take it back. It has tagged the previous all-time high relative to the NASDAQ. So, yeah, I mean, you know, that's good. That's a good sign. You want to outperform the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is like, it's probably your best, like one of your best risk-adjusted returns, right? The NASDAQ is higher risk than the S&P because it's tech stocks. But you get more returns on the NASDAQ. So if you're beating the NASDAQ, pretty good, because that's where the printed money goes, right? The government pumps that into the stock market, particularly into the NASDAQ. And nowadays it's all about the AI craze. Yeah, you know what? Let me, oh shit, XMRChat is broken. Oh no. The XMRChat page is broken. Okay. Please use XMR.
Just for Monerotopia.
Oh, okay. At Monerotalk. I thought it was always Monerotalk.
It was, and I guess they created a Monerotopia one, but it doesn't seem to be showing up.
Oh, okay.
In the comments. So yeah, just use Monerotalk, guys, and your comment will show up. Thank you, Anon.
Let me see. Do we have one? We got Anon here. Tipped 0.0015 XMR. The link given in the YouTube comments was from Monerotopia. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we will switch to probably Monerotopia once it's working again, but for now, choose Monerotalk. Thank you, Harold Bishop. Yes, Monerotalk is back, the best podcast in town. Yes, it is back after a long week. Like I know it's a whole week we were gone. It's crazy.
A well-deserved great gentleman.
The Maker tip 50 cents. Welcome back. Thank you.
Okay.
And you might have a couple questions.
Say what?
You might have a couple price-related questions in the comments. You can take a look at that if you want.
Oh, in YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we had the H-bar. Let me see. Delisting was bullish. Let's see. Yeah, fairly reasonable investor said delisting will be bullish because that's confirmation as being a real threat. Yep, 100%. I mean, whether it's bullish, I'm not totally sure. I think we still have some ways to go to get the liquidity that we need on the DEXs. But I do think in time, it's like, yeah, people do realize, hey, this is the real deal. You know, Monero is actually a threat, or they wouldn't do that. Yeah. So, oh, you know what? He asked about H-bar. So let's take a look at H-bar. Let me go to my quad charts. Yeah, we'll pull up H-bar right here. H-bar USD. Oh, you know what? Crypto. If I could spell crypto H-bar. Yeah, if you want the longest version of any crypto chart, type crypto : and then the chart that you're looking for. Yeah. So, oh shit. Okay. Nice. H-bar actually did put on. Was that 30%? That's fairly tame in the environment that we're in right now. Like, you know, I bought a shit coin here or there that's done a 2x now at this point. You know, and 2x is like Like that's not even that's not even bragging rights, right? There's other coins that are doing even more than that. But 2x is nice. 2x feels good, right? Feels good, man. H bar is a little bit tame here, but you still have a ways to go, right? You could hypothetically from the bottom here. Actually, when did we talk about it? I think it was right around. I think it was right around here. Maybe it was here. Shit. Oh wow. Okay. No, I take it back. I'm on the 1 hour chart. That's why. There we go. Okay. All right. Everything I just said, I take it back. Scratch that. Yeah. We were talking about H bar somewhere around here. I said it's probably looks like a bottoming pattern. And holy shit. Okay, that's a 3x. That's a 3x, bro. Nice. I'm assuming that you bought H bar. So that's fantastic gains. Holy shit. Good job. Good job. Fairly reasonable investor. Congratulations on your gains, sir. Pete Niles, Silicon Valley or New York City or DC or Hollywood, always go question the Fed boys because it's all about money. Yeah. Okay. I guess we can play around. It's been a while. We can take a little bit longer today. H bar versus XRP. That's the recommendation here. H bar divided by crypto XRP USD. Hey, what the hell? Maybe because I said crypt instead of crypto. All right, so this is how H bar is doing relative to XRP. Holy shit, I guess that means XRP really is pumping. All right, let's take a look at XRP USD. Damn, that is a mega pump. 3x, yeah, that's a pretty good pump. Yeah, I mean, it's the time for, it's the time for shitcoin, boys and girls. Like it really is. We could look at so many different shitcoins that have put on these crazy big gains, 3x and whatnot. It's kind of that season, right? And going back to that Bitcoin dominance chart, you'll notice there's a lot more room to run here, right? This is just a tiny little blip. Some of these coins could run up massively. The total crypto market cap is currently at 3 trillion, just above 3 trillion, and that's where we hit in 2021. I kind of consider 2021 the .com crash of crypto. But it's so degenerate. It's just like in 3 years later it came back, whereas .com took like a decade to come back. But yeah, I mean, so looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, like there's just going to be crazy gains to be had in so many different coins. XRP, I'm not recommending it, but it's one of those coins that you could foresee that it might have some pretty good gains. So let's see. Let's go to the macro, and then we'll close it out with some of the macro. Okay, Dixie. This is a boring chart, right? There's nothing to be seen here. Just kind of oscillating. Although it looks like the volatility has increased a little bit here. It's interesting that everything pumped so hard while Dixie also went up. The dollar index was increasing while everything else pumped. Everything else except for gold. Gold actually took a bit of a break here. These are the monthly candles, right? So just to give you the big eagle eye perspective, the 30,000 foot view, you'll notice that we did break the resistance, right? That rising triangle, and we closed a month above it. It looks so today is actually the 30th. So today will be the monthly close on this candle here, which will be below that line, but still kind of right at that line. Anyways, it's about whether you get this confirmation, right? You really want to see 2 monthly candles close above your strong resistance level. And that kind of tells you like, hey, okay, it's really on. At the moment, that's not what's happening. Probably the dollar index going up is a factor in that. But this is fine. Like this is not a problem. Things are effectively consolidating at exactly the resistance you would expect. Macro crash sends this thing down, whatever. Okay, that you just have to expect that's going to happen. Right now, I mean, it seems like the play is stocks and crypto, right? That's the play. So I'm wondering if gold can continue trying to go higher. Maybe it can. I was really, in terms of the wave magic, right? So forgetting the pleb lines for a moment, these purple bands are probably a long-term target, particularly if the macro crash plus intervention happens. Effectively, this thing will crash down and then recover and then make some big gains all the way up to the top of that purple line. Everything else will also be gaining at the same time. So it's kind of like, well, but still, gold probably has more gains, but it might not come soon. Just expect that gold could languish here for some period of time. It could be weeks, maybe it could even months before gold actually puts on another strong all-time high. Maybe it could just be next week, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know, but it's kind of like in this no man's land. Like for a long time, I'm like gold, right? Keep holding. It's going to go up. Like this is a safe play. This will preserve your value. It might not make you rich, but you'll preserve your value. At this moment, in terms of a gold trade, like this is no man's land to me. It's like, I don't feel like I'd want to sell, but I couldn't buy. And maybe that's why price is kind of chopping here around that area. So I don't know if anyone here probably cares about the peso, but the US dollar versus the peso is still at about 20. But also it's hitting these like very long-term resistance upper standard deviation levels. So, I mean, maybe it could come up here, kind of oscillate around there a little bit. You get another like 5% on the peso. If you're a US dollar holder that likes to occasionally flip into pesos, I know probably there's maybe a few viewers that are like that are like me. The reverse repos are still on the low side. There's still a little bit of cash. You know, there's about 200 billion left here. Hypothetically, you know, this could fuel more stock market gains, right? This thing going down, so cash coming out of reverse repos, which is basically kind of like a bond, but not really. It's like a Federal Reserve bond. They use language that any actual finance bro would just be shaking their head at me for saying that. But effectively, the Federal Reserve holds this money overnight. You get the Federal Reserve funds rate. And so that is liquid money that can just move into risk at any time, which means that there's 200 billion more dollars that could hypothetically move into risk. So that could fuel some more stock market gains. At the same time, you know, we've been watching this oil chart. We talked about, hey, you know, we're getting into this level right here. So far, this isn't total breakdown. This is like a little breakdown. But really what we're looking for is to get into this zone. And that's where I started thinking, okay, the crash is actually getting soon. Like this kind of action on that little orange, yellow squiggly, that's the kind of action that I'll be saying it's imminent, it's incipient, sell your bag so that you can rebuy. But I'm not saying that yet. Again, it's like just trying to keep the big picture here, you know, macro crash thesis on the table, but we're not there yet, right? It's you know, it's not imminent yet. So and again, the last time they did a big pump before the crash happened in the medical thing that went down in 2020. So yeah, just know that markets can pump bigly before they crash, and that's also part of the game to try and keep you in the market, right? Keep you in the S&P. Yeah, so the S&Ps, we're still basically the same kind of levels where we talked about. Let's go to the month. Actually, let's go to the 3 month because this is a long, big line. So we're looking at the S&P for like 100 years here, and you'll notice, you know, again, there's the 1929 blow off. There's the .com, and then we're basically touching those same kind of levels right here on the S&P 500. So, yeah, I mean, this should be pretty strong resistance. Obviously, you know, anything can happen, and it's possible to get above this resistance and maybe hang out here for a period of time. But it is something that you look at and you're like, yeah, that's, you know, this should act as some major resistance. So for like some big pullback, at least a pullback. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's where the S&P is at the moment. Oh, you know, let's take a fun little look here. Let's go to NVIDIA. So this white line right here is when I tweeted, I said, NVIDIA is not a bubble. It's a defense stock now, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, I mean, basically NVIDIA has proven exactly that, right? It's been, what has it been? Like 6 months now, almost. When was that? Yeah, that would be June. Yeah, so it's been basically 6 months now, and NVIDIA continues towards the upside. Like maybe it's not going to smash towards the upside like it has been, but I mean, NVIDIA is, you know, I mean, it's still up 10%. And for stocks, you know, that's a nice gain, right? 10% is a nice gain. NVIDIA is not a bubble. It's a defense stock, and the government needs as many GPUs as they can get so they can track and monitor and trace you on their chain analysis in every other which way that you can think of. Okay, so that's stocks. And then let's go take a look at bonds really quick. Bonds actually maybe surprised me a little bit. They actually, the bonds came up. So the Federal Reserve lowered rates and the bonds came up. I guess it was one of those, you know, like distractions, if you will, almost, where it's like, where you're kind of like, you know, look here, don't look here, right? Because everyone is expecting the Fed to raise rates. And so it was like the reverse thing happened. I don't know. That's, you know what? All that just sounds like a bunch of nonsense to me. So whatever I just said was probably nonsense. Anyways, bonds went up. This looks like a peak to me. This looks like a local high. It looks to me like bonds are probably most likely going to start moving down. And if they do, again, bonds moving back down here and then making a lower low is another sign to us that, yes, the macro crash thesis continues to unfold. Perhaps the inversion, which is the red lines, right? The inversion continues to uninvert. At this moment, bonds are fully uninverted now. I mean, they're still basically at the 0 point, right? So it's not like they're totally uninverted, but I mean, they are not inverted anymore, right? They're not in the negative anymore. So again, you know, like we've talked about since forever, we're looking for the inversion to move towards the upside. We're looking for yields to starting to occur. These are the signs that tell you it's imminent, it's incipient, right? Sell your bag, smash the sell button, and then wait for that rebuy moment. We're not there yet, but I'm just trying to impress upon you the kinds of things that we're looking for, so that you on your own time can look at them and know what you're looking at, and maybe make some plays, make some moves when that time comes, if you are so inclined, right? After that, I guess we had some CPI numbers. I don't think this really matters too much anymore. This chart only matters if it goes up or down by a significant amount, and we'll only see that after the fact. So, I mean, inflation is still running a little bit hot, but overall, it's pretty close to in trend for the last 20 years now. The core inflation still a little bit higher, but the CPI and the PPI are like exactly back in trend now. So, yeah, this chart doesn't really matter too much, but I just kind of wanted to show it to you so that I could tell you that it doesn't matter. But you matter. All of you matter to me. Federal Reserve balance sheet continues to decline. M2 money continues to go up. This is a very interesting situation. We've never seen it where the balance sheet is declining, but the M2 is going up. So those are kind of offsetting, counter, like acting counter to each other. Overall, probably neutral. One thing we can look at to actually divinate that, what the overall balance is there. We can look at the Federal Reserve liquidity, and that's in green. The Federal Reserve liquidity, the U.S. Overall like monetary liquidity is in. Actually, is it in green? Hang on, I'm pretty sure. I usually put the U.S. stuff in green. Yeah. Okay, so the green is U.S. liquidity. So you can basically see effectively that U.S. liquidity is just flat, right? Like it's just flat for quite a while now, drifting towards the upside. So it looks like more M2 is being printed than the Federal Reserve is selling its balance sheet. So yeah, overall, we're getting a little bit more liquidity, which is probably, fueling the modest gains in the stock market. So let's go ahead and check these comments and the questions. So we have Shortwave Surfer 2009 says, how do you add leverage to XMR? I don't know why you would necessarily want to do that, but probably Kraken, right? The problem with leverage is you need a centralized counterparty to manage that contract for you. So if you want to add leverage to XMR, or do you mean like, are you talking like a Michael Saylor? Like, how do we pull a Sailor and add leverage to pump the price of XMR? I guess we need a big bro out there, right, with access to the banking system to finagle that price higher, right? Or we could just we could just redheaded stepchild the leverage that was added to the rest of cryptocurrency. But to do that, you guys need gains, right? Everyone, like, you need gains in shitcoins and bullshit markets. You need big gains there, and then you need to roll those into XMR. That's one way that we can push the price of XMR up. It does require some trading. I hate trading. I really do. I try to do very little of it. I try to just position myself and then take little plays here and there. I take plays. I'm like, if I lose everything, whatever, I don't care. I'll ride this down to zero. I don't give two shits about it. But when you get a 5x or 10x, it's like, oh wow, that was actually a nice gain. So it's a way to like limit me taking risk. But everyone's at a different spot. That depends on how big your stack is, what your income looks like from your day job, if you have one of those. If you have a family, are you young? Are you old? Like, what kinds of risk can you take, etc. So anyways, just things to think about if you're trying to develop a strategy for yourself. Okay, let's see here. Gold is a decent savings account, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that is what gold is for. Like, this is the way central banks use it. And I hate to agree with central banks and JPOW, but gold is for reserves. That is like your reserve position. If terrible shit happens, it keeps you in a good spot if like just the world goes to shit. Otherwise, it overall keeps up with inflation as the years go by. In fits and starts, sometimes you get big gains. Other times you languish behind the market for years. But overall, gold is, especially if you buy it at the right times, if you buy it after it's had a big drop, you use gold as a savings vehicle, and it's a good way. If you don't want to tether, it's a good way after you get gains to keep your gains in cryptocurrency. I think it's a really good idea to go to a gold bullion vault that accepts crypto and just buy gold. It's also a good way for jurisdictional risk mitigation, jurisdictional arbitrage, right? You might have your gold account in some other jurisdiction than your home country. It's the flag theory, right? You're putting little flags in different places. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and wherever your gold vault is, you don't want to have your banking only in one country, and that country shuts you down. So yeah, it's one of those things that you can use for jurisdictional arbitrage. Obviously, that involves custody, which is a little bit of an anathema to the kinds of mentality that we have here. Nevertheless, it can be the case that custody protects you against yourself, right? Or protects you against wrench attacks, right? Potentially, maybe yes, maybe no, right? But like it depends on the case. But custody can protect you against yourself in some cases, where it's like, oh shit, I totally pwned my system and I got hacked or whatever. But you know, I have some other account that wasn't on that system. I don't know. Anyways, things to think about. Stonks go up. Stonks always go up. Indeed, almost always. Rare, you rarely win with leverage. Too many historical examples to the negative. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like if you're gonna play with leverage, you have got to get algorithmic. You've got to get scientific and mathematic on that shit. Like there's no other way to play leverage than to really, really know that system. So if you want to play leverage, start with something that you don't care if you lose. Start with $1. Start with $100. The one time that I might recommend some of you guys use leverage is after a big macro crash and an intervention, right? You might go in with leverage at that point saying, all right, you know, shit's the crash happened, the intervention happened. It's been a few weeks. The markets are on their way back up. I'm going long, right? Like you could do that. You can use that. Be careful. Stay like 2x, 3x, maximum 5x leverage, maximum 5. You know, stay low on your leverage. Take profit early, right? Don't get greedy. And then just roll that, like take that profit and then roll it into the actual coin. That's your safest way to play with leverage. I think I've told you guys this story before. Here's 2022. It's September. And everyone's telling me that it's the bottom of the market and that Bawdy, you're crazy and we're not going lower. And I'm like, if I could reach through the screen and slap you, I would. We are going lower. New lows are on the table. And so I put my money where my mouth was. I put some leverage across the board. I did cross margin leverage on like Doge and Litecoin and Bcash and what else? Like FTT, Sol. I mean, I was just like, I had like 5 to 7 positions, just cross margin leverage. But guess what? Musk buys Twitter October 2022 and Doge pumps 2x. And because I'm cross margined and not isolated margined, it wipes out all of my positions. And that would have been a pretty penny. It was money I could afford to lose, but the thing that hurt the most was watching 3 weeks later the market just go to shit and just being like, holy crap, that was a nice fat chunk of change that I would have made there if I hadn't gotten wiped out on leverage. So I was right. The point of this is I was right. The market was going to crash. I was leveraged short the market, and that was the right position to be, except for I made a mistake by going cross margin and Doge wiped me out when Doge pumped on the Musk Twitter buy. So that's just one example of how you can get wiped out with leverage, even if you're right? Even if you make a fantastic call, you could still get wiped out by a little mistake, and it happens all the time. I've done it too many times. You press the wrong button. You accidentally put that slider a little bit too far to the right, things like that. So, or not totally understanding the way that the orders are, the different types of orders you can make, and thinking you're doing one thing and actually doing something else. So, it's a tough game. You know, just be careful if you want to do it. There are some people, if you're detail oriented, like if you have really good attention to detail, leverage might be for you. You might be able to make that work. But if you don't have good attention to detail, you probably just want to avoid leverage in general. So, yeah. I don't think we have any more comments. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all I got for you guys, unless there's any questions that I missed or something that you guys want to take a look at. Shout out now. If you want to look at something, speak now or forever hold your peace. Going once. Going twice. Back to Tux and Doug.
All right. Got a lot of live viewers, 375 live viewers right now, guys.
Nice. Welcome. Smash that like.
Thank you, Bawdy. Thank you, Bawdy. So, dude, overall, when, if ever, would you expect to see Monero catch some of the bull market?
In the bear market.
Wow.
I mean, it seems like Monero has done the best relative to other coins in the bear market, right? Because we have actual organic support for our price. It's not leverage bullshit. So our price stays more stable during bear markets. Probably at the tail end, man. Like we'll probably catch something towards the tail end. That's when I would expect to see it.
Now, we'll probably get more into this in the news and whatnot, but any opinion on what you think the new administration's effect might be on policies that could affect access to Monero?
Maybe they'll relax a little bit. Maybe we'll see the cessation of the delistings, right? Maybe that'll happen. Like maybe we'll catch a 4-year break here where, I mean, because the next thing in my mind is they're going to try and hit the states. If they're going to try and do it, and they probably will, it's kind of how they are. They'll hit the states individually, one at a time, right? They'll find California, right? They'll be like, hey, California, why don't you delist that Monero crap? And they'll be like, yeah, we love being communists. You know, so like that's kind of what I would expect to see, but maybe we'll get a cessation of that for 4 years. I don't know if necessarily we can expect that the current administration is going to do anything that's all that great for you know, for Monero adoption, or that's going to push that needle in a positive direction, but at least it's not moving further in a negative direction. I don't know, man.
Okay,
I feel like
I kind of see this. I kind of see it. Go ahead, Tux.
I was just saying that I feel like at this point, the copium of people will finally realize Monero's value will not be to the same degree of what people see as happening to Bitcoin. Because if you want to make those big bucks, you have to be allowed to, which is why Bitcoin's so high. And that's why Bitcoin is, at least it was when it was, you know, before this bull market. Maybe now it's not as much, but it was a good investment. It was safe because it's got all this money in it, right? It's been accepted. It's been allowed. Monero's never going to have that. So even if there is natural demand, it's never going to skyrocket to the same degree that Bitcoin is. I just don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which is sad. It's really sad to say, but just the fact that it's where it is right now is still a pretty good indicator that Monero is used and has its own value. And yeah, I like your points of why Monero's not pumping, why Xano's not pumping. Yeah, Zcash pumping is funny. That's weird. It's pumping a lot. It's just because that's not where the money is going. The forced pump is going. It's not going into the privacy coins because they don't want it to. They don't want to promote those.
Yep. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, you just, Monero and in general, the markets in 2021, I used to sort of have this organic rational market hypothesis. And then the market forced me to reevaluate that. And so it's like, okay, that's not how markets are, but you know what? That's fine. We can live with that. We could deal with that. We just need to know what we're getting into and change our chess moves accordingly. Change our strategy.
Yeah, we'll see.
That law, what was that law of someone's law chart that had a theoretical Monero real value? Although it's nice to look at and imagine.
Oh yeah, that was Monero with a J.net. MoneroJ.net.
Monero's website, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were comparing the stock to flow, Bitcoin stock to flow, Monero stock to flow, and then like I think maybe they incorporated Metcalfe's law. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that was it. It's Metcalfe's law.
And they were like, Monero's price should be here, you know, but it's down here. And it was interesting that that seemed to correlate with the moment that Binance started fractional reserving Monero.
Yeah, I remember you did a little bit of a look into that.
Yeah, I was part of the XMR Trader sub at the time. I was on Reddit at the time, not Twitter, and mostly it was like I was kind of half of a personal journal and half of like a discussion debate platform where I could just like, you know, because I was really trying to understand markets. I was like, okay, like what the hell's going on here? So I was just trading ideas with a bunch of guys, you know, on the XMR Trader sub and you know Monero and a cryptocurrency sub. And yeah, so there was probably about 4 to 10 of us or 5 to 10 of us that were sort of examining the evidence of what was happening with Binance. And, you know, because at first we sounded like crazy, you know, nut jobs, like, oh, my price didn't go up enough, so I'm going to cry about Binance. But eventually it was like, no, every stone we turned under, like we could look and point at very clear things that were happening that, you know, and then obviously we did the Mona run and then they couldn't keep none of the exchanges could keep their withdrawals open except for Kraken. So we were, yeah, I mean, that was the smoking gun. Like, yes, they're fractionally reserving. They're absorbing buy pressure by selling Monero that they don't have, so that keeps the price from going up. Like that's just what they did. Like it's like not even a question now. That's just what the evidence says.
Neil's tipped $1.23. Welcome back, guys. Hope we'll be able to watch the conference video somewhere. There must have been a ton of cool talks I missed. Yeah, we'll post them. We'll probably post them all kind of at once. We'll do like a premiere. We'll basically rebroadcast them over the course of 4 days. I don't know when we'll have that ready, but we'll do it at some point. What do you got? I mean, kind of related to this topic, but I mean, do you think the Monero community should be coordinating on a higher level to perhaps lobby for Monero, right? Like we've seen Zcash do. Is like, are we at that point in time? It seems like it could be a good time to do that, given the administration, that there'd be amenable to having conversations around the need for a digital cash utility. Like, I think the Monero community, obviously, because we're so decentralized, we really lack in those areas. But there's really no reason why we can't create movements and raise money and fund projects towards those efforts, or even potentially trying to advocate for getting Monero listed on more exchanges. Like, I know that's like, we always talk about not caring about it. We have Serai decks coming up. We have Avino. Monero is building these decentralized bridges. But why not take advantage of where we're at potentially in the arc of adoption and kind of where the zeitgeist is at, and try to get Monero adoption to grow on a more mainstream level?
I suppose that I see both positives here. On the one hand, if we don't do that, then we take the momentum that we have and we continue to build the decentralized solutions. We start to onboard to them, liquidity shows up, and you see a real organic, completely decentralized ecosystem that was supposed to be the case, 10 years ago. That's supposed to be how things were supposed to go, and then they all got co-opted by the government, right? I think Monero is too strong to really actually get co-opted by the government, which sounds a little bit starry-eyed moon boy, I guess. But even if the government got involved and said, "Hey, actually, we lobbied them to include more Monero, to be more inclusive to the Monero bros," I don't think that Monero would be that easily overtaken, that easily co-opted. I think partially, in large part, because we've seen that story before, so we're kind of, we've been inoculated against such things. And at the same time, if those efforts are successful, right, to lobby the government, hey, we're fine, we should be on exchanges, you should declare us like unequivocally legal to be on exchanges, and then we actually see relistings, that'll be massive for the price. Like we'll probably 10x, like 5 or 10x overnight almost, if that happens. So that would be good for price, obviously, which is interesting, and obviously that would be good for adoption, right? You get a lot of visibility there if such a thing happens. So,
I'm just saying, I think it could be time to, coordinate on that level and try to push for relistings.
I mean, if there was a time to do it, now would probably be the time to start, to set those wheels in motion to make those things happen. So if you were so inclined to ask the government for things, then definitely now would be. I mean, I would agree. It would be the time. You like the way I phrased that?
Exactly. Yeah, I know, man. I know. Yeah, I know you don't want to deal with these mafias, but
I understand why people do, and I understand the benefits that can come from doing so, and it would probably benefit our price, which would obviously benefit my own personal bags as well. And now with Trump, with the lip, at least they have to give the lip service, like, then maybe, yeah. So like they included, they Kennedy's back on. He's back on for the NHS. I think we all screamed loud enough that was bullshit. That they had to make that concession. So, yeah, I mean, now is the time for concessions. Maybe you're right.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving. We got almost 400 live viewers. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do price report. I see we got Ulysses in the back. We got Incorrigible. We got Alaska now. We got
another price report.
Did I just say price report? Are we gonna
news?
I know.
Are we gonna do news? Are we gonna do the news? We got Tony. Tony's ready to go. I mean,
Tony. Tony.
We'll do news and then we'll do viewers on stage, right?
Sounds right.
All right. Yeah, we got a lot of viewers waiting to jump up and talk about the conference. So let's try to do a quick news if that's possible.
Awesome. Let's do it.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Hey, Tony, and thank you as always, Bawdy. I do got a super chat real quick. Niles tipped $1.23. Awesome. I'll have a lot of talks to watch once they're uploaded. For Monero adoption, I think it should be kept decentralized as much as possible. Keep the tag service small. But at the same time, we need to make it as possible, as popular as possible. Do goals.
Do goals, exactly.
Hey guys, I forward only
Tony!
good things about the conference.
Yeah, man, you missed a good
Yeah.
one. You would have really had a good time.
I know.
Next time
Missed
though.
you, Jody. I actually met Bawdy this time. It was a pleasure seeing him.
That's
Likewise.
awesome, guys. Yeah, yeah. It's been a full week with me with the election back home. Well, we'll talk about it. It's been kind of crazy. So,
Oh, okay.
well, in 2 weeks from now, we're either gonna pretty much go back to Russia or be part of Europe again, kind of like that. So it's kind of crazy.
That's a turning point.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It's kind of it's kind of wild.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm excited to hear you guys talk about the conference and how it was, and see videos.
Yeah, it was really good. We'll get to it. We have a bunch of people that want to jump up, but yeah, if you can run us through the news. There was some big things to talk about this week. I think right there was a tornado cash ruling. I think we have that in the news.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, big
a
deal.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
take
let's
it away.
see.
Maybe we'll make Ulysses our special guest, since we didn't have a special guest for today. I see Ulysses is backstage. If he sticks around, we'll make him our special guest this week. Bring him up after the news.
Awesome. Also, first of all, guys, I don't know what happened to my headset, but I got a headset, and then I'm not sure if the cable is not working anymore. The Bluetooth is working. So that happened. And we have 45 people watching on YouTube and just 3 likes. So, guys, if you're signed in, make sure you give us a like, because that really helps. And if you have any questions, you can give it in the YouTube comment section. That's the one that I'm gonna watch, and we'll be able to interact. But yeah, so let's go over the news section. We have a lot of stuff for this week. First, if you want X Premium, you can buy it with Monero. Essentially, let's see. I'm not sure why when I click on this post, it just says this page doesn't exist. But if I click on the picture, or the video, it works. But essentially, Monero Maverick, if you give him Monero, then he's going to purchase for you X Premium. So that's really cool. So in case you want X Premium, you go to Monero Maverick, and you can purchase it.
It was cool to see
XMR
on XMR Bazaar. Yeah, it was cool to see Aaliyah do it.
Yep.
And she anonymously purchased X Premium because she's an anonymous figure. She's basically the first admin on XMR Bazaar. But pretty cool to see that now become a popular service on XMR Bazaar. You can anonymously purchase X Premium. Cool
And
to see.
I think they only have one more day, or not too long, before you can get the 40% off for the whole year. So in case you were looking for it, then make sure you purchase it soon. That's a good deal. Now, I know some people asked in the comments about FCMP++. Well, it's expected to be live on testnet within the next few months. Now, let's click on this link a little bit. Yeah, so Monero posted on X, we're excited to share an update regarding full chain membership proofs. To summarize, FCMP++ is progressing well and is expected to go live on testnet within the next few months. And yeah, let's click on. Yeah, so that's obviously really exciting news. somebody, a fairly reasonable investor said, very good, just mentally preparing. Yeah, so that's awesome news. And then 295 Monero was sent to this proposal from the general fund to audit the Monero Serai wallet, with the majority of funding coming from CCS donors, and is now fully funded. So very good news in regards to the progression of Monero. Then we have Monero Matteo. He said he's going to make a video responding to the XMRchat comments that he's been receiving. He said more dynamic and interesting, since I can struggle to come up with topics. And yeah, so somebody tipped him using XMRchat, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to see we have some new streamers that are using it.
Yeah.
If you go to XMRchat.com, I think we even we have a search feature built in there, so you can see who some of the streamers are, which is, I mean, it makes sense. You get to keep all your tips. Nobody's taking 30% of your tips. So I'm hoping we could get some larger streamers in the Liberty space to start using it. Like, like Tim Pool, like those people.
That's really cool. You said there's maybe like a tab in which you can see which streamers are already using it. Creators.
You can click the search icon on the top right.
Cool. Okay. So let's see. Whoa, well, quite a quite a bit of people. Techlore, Schmidt. That's cool. Yeah, guys. So it's a lot more people are using it. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be used by more audiences in the future. But yeah, XMR Bazaar, XMRchat, all these things.
Yeah, if we could get some larger names to start using it in the Liberty space, like Martha Bueno, Tim Pool, those people, it would reach a wide audience.
Tim Pool's not going to use something like this.
No.
Maybe someone like Luke Rutkowski.
Luke. I'm trying to work on
Luke. Actually
Luke.
Be interested, because I actually met him and talked to him very briefly at Bitcoin Nashville, and he said he was interested in something like that. So,
well, I was supposed to go on his show before Monerotopia, but he was a little concerned bringing on a Monero person, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Bro." I was like, "Come on! I thought you were Mr. Liberty." I thought you were Mr. Liberty, so I'm still working on that. So not trying to talk. Maybe he has some legitimate reasons.
Come on, guys, let's spam him.
No, do not.
Just kidding. Don't harass him.
Don't harass him, because I think we'll be able to convince him.
Maybe just mention in the comments we want to see Douglas Tooman, this Liberty guy. We really want to see.
Yeah. Throw that out to him in a nice way.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, I think from what I see and over the years, that the Monero community has been the most non-violent, and most intellectual, and just open to overall tech in general. So, yeah, hopefully,
the culture in Monero is amazing, grassroots and honestly, growing. Honestly. In spite of the lack of price appreciation. I mean, that just shows you the passion and community that's there, right? They're just into it for the utility. And that's once the cap is removed and Monero is allowed to blossom, I mean, it's gonna be beautiful.
Which I think it's okay, because it's been so stable. For example, I got some family into Monero, and then like my aunt, the one that you met a couple years ago, the first Monerotopia, she had a Monero, and she told me a couple of days it's been holding up. Like even she noticed that it's been stable, not down too much, not up too much. I mean, obviously we want it up. I mean, yeah, it's nice that it's going up for the price, but also it just means that it's being used more and more people are using it. That's why I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, it's been stable, and I'm fine with it, and it's gonna grow. I mean, with Trump, I guess things got more positive. So if Kamala would have been in, or maybe more people would have geared towards Monero, or if really bad things are happening, that things are tending to be more positive, it's going to be a bit more difficult. That's how I see it. But yeah. Now I actually didn't get to watch much of the Mark Andreeseen and Joe Rogan podcast. So should we? Do you know like what minute I should skip to, Doug, or should I just play the first couple?
Oh yeah, I think that's where he's just talking about how people like working on crypto startups have been debanked, and Joe Rogan is just like shocked that people are getting debanked. So you could play some of that. And
Okay.
obviously, we all know what the solution is, right? use Monero, and you can't get debanked. But yeah, it's worth listening to.
Okay, so let's play the video.
I don't know where it's.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know exactly where. How long is the video? Maybe let's maybe skip
like 9 minutes. So that's
put it at like let's say put it at like the 6-minute mark.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go 6 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
What happens to those 30 tech people that you know?
Start to go into a different field, like try to do something different and try to get,
complete upending of your life.
Yeah, complete upending of your life, and try to change your life, try to get out of try to get away from the eye of Sauron. Try to get out of whatever zone got you into this and keep applying for new bank accounts at different banks and hope that at some point a bank will say, oh, okay, it's okay. We've checked it. It's now all right.
Whoa.
But there's no.
So what do they do with their money? Like what happens?
You go to cash.
You go to cash.
You can't have a. Yeah.
So where do you put it?
I don't under your mattress. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That is so insane.
Yeah,
so if someone has $30 million in the bank and they get debanked,
diamonds, art, do you, I don't know, go overseas somewhere?
Holy shit.
Yeah. It just happens. And again, it's really, really important. There's no fingerprints. Like there's no person who.
There's no stick above the strings.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It just happened. And we can trace it back because we understand exactly, we know the politicians involved, and we know how the agencies work, and we know how the pressure's applied, and we know that these banks get phone calls and so forth. And so we can loosely, like we understand the flow of power as it happens. But when you're on the receiving end of this, your specific instance of it, like you can't trace it back, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What are the instances? Like what is the company? What are they trying to do? And how do they run afoul?
Well, all the crypto startups in the last basically 4 years. So remember the crypto thing got like really, sort of everybody got excited and like NFTs and like all that stuff, and then it just like stopped.
Yeah.
And the reason it stopped is because basically every crypto founder, every crypto startup, they either got debanked personally and forced out of the industry, or their company got debanked and so it couldn't keep operating, or they got prosecuted, charged, or they got threatened with being charged. This is a fun twist. This is a fun little twist. The SEC sort of has been trying to kill the crypto industry under Biden, and this has been a big issue for us because we're the biggest crypto startup investor. The SEC can investigate you, they can subpoena you, they can prosecute you, they can do all these things, but they don't have to do any of those things to really damage you. All they have to do is they issue what's called a Wells notice, and the Wells notice is a notification that you may be charged at some point in the future. Like you're like on notice that you might be doing something wrong, and they might be coming after you at some point in the future.
Oh my God.
Okay. So
terrifying. That's the eye.
The eye of Sauron is on you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now trying to be a company with a Wells notice doing business with anybody else.
Oh my God.
Right. Try to work with a big company, try to get access to a bank, try to do
so anything. That's when they support DEI initiatives and
Well, and then the SEC under Biden became the SEC under Biden became a direct application of exactly. So DEI, they did a lot with that, and then ESG, all the ESG stuff. And ESG is a very malleable concept, and they piled all kinds of new requirements into that. So through this process, the SEC could basically just simply dictate what companies do with no accountability at all. Like there are hearings where they get yelled at, but like nothing changed. Nothing ever happened in a hearing that ever changed anything.
Wow.
It was just the raw application of power. Right. And so
this is your friends. This has happened to.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we had an employee who got debanked because he had crypto in his job title. He was doing crypto policy for us, and his bank booted him because he.
That's it.
Because they did a screen across. It's what they told us is they did a screen across their customer base. And
anyone with crypto.
Because anybody with crypto became a politically exposed person. Because
wow.
That's wild. Yeah, I should watch.
They're just like a sentence away from Monero.
Yeah, the
I like what
Monero
Shock
Rogan
played
could be
too.
an achievable goal. Imagine a sticker on Mike arm. That'll be cool. Yeah, yeah. Actually, a couple of years ago, so I was using a CX. I was using Kraken a couple of years ago, and I think I was trying to buy some Monero for Kraken at the time, and then Bank of America blocked me. It's a bad bank anyway, so whatever. And then I had to call, and then yeah, but it's just when you talk about millions of dollars, it's just crazy being debanked and all the stuff that they do.
But
Yeah.
what's exciting about this is, Joe Rogan has obviously a tremendous following, and it's just, once again, the zeitgeist is kind of changing now in a positive way for people realizing the importance of a digital cash utility. Like, they're not talking about it directly here, but like that would kind of solve this problem. Opting out solves this problem, right? If people ignore the banking system, problem goes away. Nobody's getting debanked. You can't. You literally, we already have the tool and ecosystem that exists for people to no longer, fear getting debanked.
You should be on
And
Joe
so
Rogan. That would be awesome.
we should get a Monero person on there at some point. That would be, that's a good goal.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, you or Fluffy Pony or whoever.
We're gonna get on Luke's. Let me get on Luke's show first. Start with that.
You can secretly.
We need Alaska. We need Alaska on Rogan. We need Alaska hanging out on Rogan for 4 hours.
Yeah, Alaska.
Taking down all types of rabbit holes.
If you're
Rogan
listening,
whoa.
Yeah, you should stick a sticker on the microphone when he's not watching, like a Monero sticker.
All right, keep the news going. Keep the news going. We got a lot coming up.
Yep. Tornado Cash. So let's see. Yeah, Tornado Cash ruling doesn't say Treasury shouldn't be able to sanction crypto. It just says they can under current law. Let me see.
So yeah, basically Tornado Cash, right? There was a ruling in favor in the Fifth Circuit, ruling in favor of the defendants in the favor of Tornado Cash, basically saying that you can't sanction a smart contract. Essentially, is what they were saying. That's decentralized, that nobody's in control of, and so that's a win for privacy tech. Maybe that's showing where the general administration might be headed, right? So it's a good sign for privacy tech in terms of if you care what how the state views tools like Monero, which is kind of like what Bawdy and I were talking about, right? Do we just completely ignore them, or do we try to work with them and take advantage of them at this point? But this is another positive sign. But I think this guy's comment is basically like, yeah, ruling was great, but this doesn't mean that we then don't see new legislation in Congress that basically codifies what they attempted to get out of this ruling. So that's a good point, right? It looks like a win, but is this a call to action for Congress to basically put in code what they tried to get in case law here?
Yep. So yeah. So judge just ruled the Tornado Cash is to be removed from the OFAC sanctions list. It's hugely good news for anyone developing privacy software, and will likely have a positive impact on Roman Storm's trial, where it is debated whether the court may criminally charge the developers of software. It's huge. This is huge stuff. And then if you want something to celebrate with, the new incoming administration, the U.S. attorney responsible for the prosecution of Serai Wallet and Tornado Cash developers is stepping down in less than 4 weeks. Let's hope the next guy takes serving the American people a little more seriously. So yeah, U.S. attorney Damian Williams announces anticipated resignation from the Southern District of New York. So that's positive news. Then yeah, so there's much more at stake in the Tornado Cash case than meets the eye. It's the most important case, Lola said, since the 1990s, putting the freedom of internet at stake. And she mentions a lot of points, rolling back Bernstein / Zimmerman. So this case set precedent for code to be considered speech. These precedents are at stake in Roman Storm's trial, meaning that anyone can be held accountable for the code they write. This is not just a movement towards criminalizing software development, but towards criminalizing free speech itself. Yeah, this is huge. Then control over funds. Ross Ulbricht's conspiracy dilemma. He was found guilty of conspiracy to launder funds, despite not having specific knowledge of funds that were laundered. Privacy as criminal intent. We keep talking about this. TC is framed as software for criminals, just like the internet used to be framed as a technology for drug lords, terrorists, porn, whatever, you name it. Nothing could be further from the truth, but financial privacy is frowned upon, even by the majority of the population, as most people don't realize that your financial history provides virtual current biography. So we've been talking about this, and it's very important what's going to happen next, because what's going to happen with developers of VPNs, Tor, or Session, or
there's we're kind of like relitigating the 90s right now. So it's I need to get Lola Leitz on a show. She presented at Monerotopia, which is really awesome. She presented remotely. It's the first time she's ever done a live presentation, and then she did Q&A, which was really cool. Lola Leitz, that's the person's tweets you were just reading. Be great to get her on a Monero talk, because there is definitely a lot going on in terms of where the US is headed with regards to policy, privacy tech, with Samurai wallet being litigated. We just saw what happened with Tornado Cash, which is a good sign. But yeah, now's the time. We're like going through this transitional period, and seemingly seems like things are heading in our favor at this point. But that could change.
Yeah, hopefully it's not going to change. But yeah, this is beyond crypto.
I mean, they weren't in our favor, and that these people were indicted in the first place. But hopefully, the legal system, seemingly is moving in the right direction right now.
Yep. Now, so we've been talking about this, but you know what comes after registering your miners? You get told which transactions to censor. We showed in the past, I think some transactions had a made in, like a made in China, made in USA, or whatever in the block. So we can identify where it was mined so that it can be marginalized, besides many other things. But crypto miners must register with state and reveal power usage under new Texas rule. If you don't abide, then you're gonna pay $25,000 per violation per day. So yeah, they don't want mining to be decentralized. They want it to be centralized, and they want to be able to control. I mean, what transactions are you allowing? And put a stamp in, made in USA, made in Russia, made in whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. When Trump said, I want all Bitcoin mining to be in the US, I was like, yeah. Kind of missed the point on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows who's mining Monero. Everybody knows who's mining Bitcoin. It's all known entities, large entities that are wheeling and dealing with the state. That's kind of the nature of how things work here, especially here in the US. So it doesn't really become decentralized at that point. You have these large corporate entities that are kind of like working hand in hand with the state, benefiting from the regulations that the state ends up putting in place, and they don't care if it deteriorates Bitcoin's value proposition as digital cash, as long as the number continues to go up for their for their corporate mining services, and the price of Bitcoin keeps going up. So the incentive is just for things for it to become more and more a defanged surveillance coin than anything else.
Yep. Now, post from Aaron Day. He said, the cloud people are finally realizing that debanking isn't a small-scale phenomenon, nor is it something that requires a new technical infrastructure to make happen. I will help everyone fast forward to the solution. People are going to talk about auditing and reforming the Fed. There's no reforming the Fed. State-based money doesn't work. Digital dollar now and start using privacy coins like Zeno and Monero. Also start tokenizing assets privately, as they are about to add surveillance to not only money, but to everything that we own, which will be tokenized in the same manner as CBDCs. And we've been talking about kind of this tokenization, and because essentially they don't want you to own much at all, and then whatever assets you have, they need to, probably be registered eventually, and they want to know exactly how many things you have in your house, outside your house, what kind of car, all this stuff. Now, let's go back to crypto policy landscape following the election. Obviously, that's a very big discussion. And in the past, we've been always kind of talking about some super categories, as Coin Center describes: surveillance issues, tax reporting, AML, sanctions, and investor protection issues. These are huge. And then also, there's two super categories that can divide the crypto ecosystem: centralized businesses, custodial wallet providers, centralized exchanges, trusted issuers, which we recommend to go the decentralized way, as we've seen in the past, that they're just delisting Monero. And anyway, Monero or a true crypto doesn't need to be on decentralized exchanges. But yeah, it's between centralization and decentralized infrastructure developers and users that any normal person would recommend over a centralized business, because then you are the owner. You own it, no matter what you own. So and then they offer a chart of past and potential future policy actions to help you understand this framework, and then they take it between centralized businesses and decentralized infra devs and users. So I'm going to just name a few, but for centralized businesses, agencies, SEC enforcement, actions against custodial exchanges, Crack and Coinbase. Then we have on the other side, agencies, treasury enforcement, actions against custodial exchanges, Binance, BitMEX. Let's go over decentralized infra devs and users, agencies, SEC enforcement. By the way, Gary Gensler, I think he's going to step down. I didn't look much into it, but he's not going to be in charge, which is good. Slight side note. But SEC enforcement, actions against non-custodial wallet providers, Coinbase, Wallet, Consensus, MetaMask. On the other side, agencies, 6050I tax reporting obligations, Tornado Cash sanctions, IRS broker rulemaking, unlicensed money transmission, prosecutions, Tornado Cash, and Samurai Wallet. The next year it's going to be very interesting. And they also mentioned some top threats. 6050I, that is a big one. So let's go to it over quick. Basically, Congress takes its war on cash to digital assets, be it America or Europe. They don't want you to spend as much cash. They want you to go the digital way for obvious reasons, because they can track cash. So the 6050I tax code section is important. Then Tornado Cash sanctions and unlicensed money transmissions, prosecutions. We have a lot to look forward to in the next year, and we'll see what Trump is going to do, how many things he's going to do of what he said. Is Rust going to be free the first day? A lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to as well. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Europe, because it's an attack on freedom, liberty, and it seems like Putin now cares about countries that are in NATO as well. Ukraine isn't in NATO, and they're trying their best for them to not be in NATO. Georgia's not part of the European Union, but they were going that route, and they want to go in the European Union. But Russia, with this year's election, now you not only have to fear that you're electing the same corrupt people, but you also need to fear that you're electing the extremists, Putin's friends, essentially. And in Moldova, that was a very close call. They're all almost going to elect a pro-Russian candidate that he could barely speak Romanian anyway. It was absolutely crazy, but he lost, fortunately. In Georgia, they were going the European way. Good or bad, I mean, it's way better than the Russian way. When people emigrate, they're not going to Russia or North Korea. They're going to Germany, Italy, and America and other countries. But yeah, they fraudulently elected a pro-Russian in Georgia, and as we all expected, now they stymied the process to go towards the European path, and people are protesting. And they're attacking the people right now, and of course the protests are not violent, but they are being very violent towards the people. So let's watch just a couple seconds. Yeah, so it's it's crazy what's happening there right now, and the fact that they're interfering with other countries' elections, which is happening to my own country as well, which is Romania. So again, their strategy right now is to denatify nations. Like Romania is part of NATO, part of the EU. We escaped communism for 35 years, and Russia wanted us the entire history. So our democracy and freedoms are in great, great danger. Essentially, overnight, this TikTok candidate, they call him, because he wasn't on any debate or anything. He was just on TikTok. He said he spent zero money on the campaign, but that's not true, because he used bots and stuff like that to almost win the election. He went from not being known to being first on the polls. So it's really, really scary. He wants us out of NATO, out of EU, and he isn't a big endorser of Putin, of Russia. He has lost it because he endorsed genocide, and he called some people in our past that haven't been great, and they contributed to the extermination of Jews. He called them heroes and martyrs. It's crazy what's happening right now. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going to go vote for the parliament, and the next week is going to be for the presidency. It's going to be between him and then the woman. I really hope she's going to win, because if not, it's going to be terrible. But yeah, protests going around the whole country, in Romania as well, and it's just so interesting that now you also have to fear that you're going to have extremists running as well. So not just the corrupt politicians, but extreme people. And this guy is just mimicking Putin. 3 years ago, when he jumped into a frozen lake to swim, he did the same. As you can see in this video, Putin wasn't a white horse. He did the same. Putin did judo. He was doing the same. So yeah, it's. Oh, can you actually see? Yeah, you can. Yeah, yeah. So it's absolutely crazy what's happening right now, and also I don't think I have the article open, but no, I don't. But yeah, this TikTok CEO is also called in the European Parliament so that he can talk about what happened and how his platform was used for massive disinformation. You could go on TikTok and you can watch somebody play with a cat, and you're gonna see this guy in the comments somewhere by a bunch of bots. So yeah, I mean, I said to share these things because freedom is being attacked in a lot of places, and seems like communism, fascism, it wants to make a comeback. A lot of European countries have gotten rid of it in 1989. but it wants to come back very, very strong, and it's scary, but hopefully it's going to be good. So I'll report back on this in 2 weeks, actually from there. So I'll either be here or I'll be on the street. But yeah, guys. So YouTube, good on you for voting. Everyone should do it. Yeah. For example, there was a difference of 2,000 votes between a corrupt politicians and the one that should win, and then she barely made it. So your vote matters, and it's very, very important. But yeah, guys, so this new section, we had a lot of stuff. European politics, attack on democracy and freedom. Then we had just future crypto regulation stuff. Monero news, FCMP++, that's exciting, XMRchat. A lot of good things to look forward to, but yeah, like and share, that helps a lot. We're close to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you aren't subscribed, then please go ahead and subscribe. We're very, very close. And yeah, that was it for this week, guys. Thank you.
All right, Tony, thank you as always. I guess we'll go ahead and head straight into viewers on stage. I think we've got a bunch of people waiting to join up.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do a viewers on stage, and then we'll run a special guest segment, and we'll bring Ulysses up.
Awesome.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Alrighty. Come on down, guys. Got a lot of people.
Monerotopia was absolutely amazing, you guys. Absolutely amazing.
Awesome. From your perspective, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I know we dropped the ball a little bit with the Q&A, but that's good to hear from home you were enjoying it.
Yeah, I was a bit upset about that and kind of made my feelings known in the chat about it, but other than that,
Rightfully so.
Other than that, it was really good. You guys did a fantastic job.
Awesome. Yeah, the content was incredible, right? I mean, I got to go back and I listened to like a couple of talks. Obviously, I caught parts of most talks, but I missed the meat of most of them.
I think my favorite was probably freaking Amir Taki. That was really good and really inspiring. Yeah.
And being there, I'm glad you enjoyed it at home, but being there in person in the dome, I mean, we have the dome is packed. Like, you know, it was like 120. I don't know how many people were in there. I guess pretty much like we had about 175 Monero people that were at this conference, like if you include the speakers and whatnot. And then in addition to that, we had, let's say, 50 locals. And then obviously we had like 80 vendors. So it was pretty large. So during the big talks, the dome was completely packed, which it's exciting to be in the dome with the speaker like that. It's like it's very compact. Everybody has a good seat. It's very engaging. So yeah, I'm glad to hear though, Shortwave, that you enjoyed it remotely. That's important. That means we succeeded on that end as well.
I even got to meet Satoshi. I don't know if you noticed that, but Satoshi was in the chat for a while.
Oh yeah, Peter Todd? Peter Todd was hanging out?
No, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay.
There was a person named Satoshi Nakamoto in the chat.
All right, not surprised. Not surprised.
I think the real goal here is adoption and the growth of the circular economy, and I would say that this conference, beyond any other conference, Monerotopia or otherwise, it was a resounding success. Some of the things that we saw as far as like adoption at the local level, but then the other thing is I've had a lot of requests, even from people that I haven't met, reaching out to me to ask me to come on their shows or podcasts. In fact, I have one coming up in like 40 minutes here, where people are asking me to talk about what happened at Monerotopia and what the results were. Fear not, Doug. I'm not cheating on you. I'm spreading the word.
No, please fly away.
No,
Man.
exactly. Like it's
just come back to your nest every once in a while, though. You know.
Yes, I'll always be here. I think you know that. But the thing is the word is getting out into communities that were not originally a part of any of this, right? And that's the goal, right? We want to see people who, you know, are not from this world interested in their use case. And I've seen more than anything, the lights turn on when stuff that we in this element of society, when we talk about what we're interested in, it only gets as far as people who are interested in it. But when you bring up things like remittances, when you bring up things like, as we've talked about many times before, the international border conundrum of using your money, all of a sudden the lights turn on, right? A lot of the people, especially in Mexico, when they realized how they're getting raked over the coals with transaction fees and remittance fees and all of this other stuff. And then also people from within the community finally got to see where the friction points are. You know, last year we tried so hard to bring it to the attention of, like, whether it be developers or whether it be people who are trying to increase adoption, what they think the friction points are for Monero versus what the users on the ground were experiencing. There was this big disconnect, and I think that more than ever that disconnect is closing, and people are starting to understand if we want more adoption, the issues that we want to work on are different than what they originally believed, right? And bringing new faces, especially in the tech world, into solving some of these problems. In fact, I see one on the stream right now. So,
speaking of the Monero circular economy, I just had to lower all the prices on my store by 0.6% for the first time. So that happened. And I was actually on another podcast myself. One of my friends who's blind reached out to me, and there's this other person who's also totally blind that does a podcast, and her son had been telling her about crypto. And so she was talking to my friend about crypto. And so my friend reached out to me and was like, hey, would you like to be on this podcast? And I'm like, sure. So I did an hour with them. So that was a really interesting thing.
Oh, amazing. I'm sure you spoke about Monero quite a bit, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think the takeaway was that the host herself wasn't convinced, but that some of the viewers definitely were.
Okay.
And this is where things like text-to-speech and other accessibility issues, they had been flying under the radar, even though we have this wonderful gentleman Shortwave here pounding the table about it. But it was very relieving to see there was somebody using Monero at the conference and very interested in continuing to use Monero. But because of the accessibility features that she uses on her phone, she was having trouble not receiving but sending Monero, right? And it was such a breath of fresh air. And thank you, Tux, by the way. You're really, truly a hero. To be able to go get an actual wallet developer and bring them over and show them, like, I know this isn't what you think about, but this is what people are experiencing. And that's a huge niche, by the way. There aren't other payment applications that are considering things like text to, voice to text and other methods for being able to use Monero if, for example, you have vision problems. Or another thing is like built-in translations. People were starting to understand that there were issues with, for example, the peso to Monero calculation when you used it under certain contexts, or just the volatility of different currencies were playing into using these apps, which is also in the long run may be a powerful weapon for Monero adoption. Because if Monero continues to be as incredibly stable as it is, people will start to price things in Monero in their head, and then the local currency will become the afterthought, not the other way around.
I was there, and I saw lots of interesting stuff about the last mile. And one of the things when I got home, one of the first things I figured out was tap to pay. You guys, we can put a Monero address on NFC 215 cards, and now someone can tap this, and then it'll show up as Cake Wallet. And it's about like kind of education and SOP. When I started doing this, it's different than when I would tap my credit card. So normally I would have my card and I tap the kiosk, and then the kiosk tells me, you're going to pay me this much money. But when we do it like this, they tap, and then it says, how much money are you going to pay this vendor? So it's a matter of flipping people's concepts around, that they're the bank and that there are technologies already available. We just kind of have to get out there and get our hands dirty. Monerotopia was a success, though. I saw it with my own eyes.
Awesome, man. Did we talk down there? Did we talk? I don't think we did. Did we?
You met me, yeah.
Okay.
We met. It was a busy event, but we definitely met. There was a point where we were all buying XMR from the vendors, and this was also another
Okay, you were part of that. Yeah,
it was a magical moment. When I come home, and I've told people about this moment.
Guys, if you can mute, if you're not talking, go ahead.
Because it was like a 1930s, 1950s, like an ancient, old-timey stock market. Like, we were there with paper in our hand. We couldn't speak the local language. We were like, I'm screaming 2000 in American, and the guy comes up to me, and it's like clunky. We're able to do the exchange. Yeah. So there were hodlers. Some people were not there at the rush. Some people were hodling. Every free market that emerges is going to have winners and losers. And the last mile adoption is about, it worked. We shouldn't be so critical of it. It worked. And I think I've been going to everybody I know here in Colorado and telling them the story. I'm like, you guys have to understand. So the intrinsic value, like when we're talking about Monero to the moon, we're not headed for the moon. We're headed for a totally different rock in space. Bitcoin's headed for the moon. Fiat, glowy clown world is headed for the moon. I can't pay for TapJet in Bitcoin. I'm not a member of Expat Nation. If I'm trading in fiat or Bitcoin, I'm still thinking like an American. I'm still thinking with my old skin. What I saw at the VIP party, guys, was a new country. We're all members of Expat Nation. Anybody who was there, we all at least have one passport. There's more to what's here. And I think we don't maybe see the connections. A lot of us are all working on our own things. I've been working on an e-commerce solution, which allows me to accept Cash App, Fiat, and XMR, and it's all like streamlined into chat, egress-based commerce. And it's MIT licensed. I know the stuff they're doing at Cake is awesome, because when I got home and started messing with the NFC stuff, it just worked. Cake was already designed to open Monero links, and so iOS immediately just recognized this and it was like, "Oh, you want to open that in Cake?" We're all the little mycelium tendrils are about to connect, and a new neural network, a new life form is going to boot up, guys.
I love it, man. I love it.
Okay, I'm done. Hopefully, I've converted you all to the religion, right?
Yeah. That I'll be cutting that. That'll be the promotion for the next Monerotopia. Amazing, man. And we see that
make a great short too, by the way.
We see that happening in person at Monerotopia. You could like visually see the connections being made, right, when you're there. Yeah, fantastic. What I was saying was, we got to think about how we turn Huerta Roma into like a Monero accepting utopia in Mexico City all year round, right? So get the vendors to the point where they're always accepting Monero, not just during Monerotopia. And I think that's possible. I think it's just education, getting them to the same level we're at in terms of being comfortable with Monero, because at the end of the day, they're very open to receiving anything as long as they have a way to turning it into value, right? So
yeah, they're already comfortable with dollars. They're already comfortable with pesos. I spoke to the war chief about this problem. The war chief gave me some chief things to work on, and I've been attacking these fronts. And remittances. Remittances is like a $700 billion industry globally. And the thing that these people are going to understand is remittances, because they have family over here, they have family there. And that's why last mile is what matters. Me and the war chief talked about that. He's like, okay, so let's say I put my Monero address on one of these cards. I ship it to my uncle overseas who maybe barely understands it, but I can be like, hey, you can tap it. It works, whatever. What matters is getting it to where it spends on the other end, which is why gift cards are such a big deal. Like, why do we see gift cards all over the Monero economy now? It's because of remittances. And the missing last mile piece is my ability to spend it in the home country is literally just liquidity and adoption. If we could set up, and yeah, Roma Norte is like, it isn't about it already is that. We all showed up. It'd be nice constantly. But it will happen because people are already fed up with the current system. People don't like being in slaves and in chains. And I mean, I didn't have my passport before last week, and now that I've got it, I'm done. I'm ready to check out. All it takes is one taste of freedom, and it's easy, and it's already bootstrapping much faster than we may be. Since I've gotten home, all the XMR that I bought with those pesos, I give away to all my friends and tell them the story, and you should see their eyes light up. And people who've been critical of crypto, it's like, well, why? And then you're like, oh yeah, I know you're critical of blockchain analysis. Everybody understands. They're like, oh wait, this is glowy, I don't like it. And you're like, no, Monero is not glowing. And they're like, oh okay. it's really not hard, guys. So the moon, we're aiming for a different rock. We're not trying to hit the moon.
We're inhabiting our own rock.
We're creating a hole. Yeah, so we're gonna take all the space garbage and collect it, and then use it to mine Monero.
I like what you're thinking in terms of like the NFC stuff and all like that. That should really it already naturally was a part of Monerotopia, right? Like we saw with the note, like we improved from the first year, right? Now we have the Nodos connected to the Starlinks, but that should be the hackathon theme for Monerotopia. Kind of always is just kind of grow, improving the marketplace, improving Monero adoption within Monerotopia, because if we get that environment right, we could scale that up in other areas.
All farmers markets. So what I learned from Monerotopia is that there's a new booth. There's a new booth, and I've been telling my friends this is the sales pitch. There's a new booth at every farmers market in the world called the backpack vendor. The backpack marketplace. There's a guy who's willing to take pesos, dollars. He's got silver and gold, and he's at every farmers market in the world now. We just have to enable him, and that's why I came home and started working on NFCs.
I love that.
And e-commerce and the escrow stuff, everything the war chief was like, here, it's on your plate, go deal with it, because that's the last mile, is we need the backpack exchange.
This is why I harp so much on pricing items in Monero, because the big thing you see is that people are like, oh, well, it's not stable compared to my fiat currency, I'm not used to this. So you price items in Monero, and suddenly, wow, it becomes stable, because I can now buy AAA batteries with Monero. I can now buy AA batteries with Monero. I can buy my laptop with Monero. I can buy anything I want with Monero, priced in Monero. And if I decide I don't like the price, I can either find another vendor with a cheaper product, or I can wait till later when I can afford it to buy it.
I couldn't agree more. I run like a genetics mushroom swapcity.shop. We do the exact same thing. We price everything in XMR, and then if they want to pay me in fiat, I'll convert it. And the proxy and escrow, the physical object escrow proxy, these vendors, there's a guy in the scene. I don't know if I've emailed him. I'm trying to get a hold of him. But he runs the most popular proxy there on Monerica. Has done a lot of work. He even has an LLC. It's really impressive. But this is the space that needs to be built out. And I like it, like where you're going. It's got to be priced in XMR, and we have to have an understanding of maybe it is cheaper in fiat, but what I'm paying for is different than $1 or a credit, right? There's more, what Slavoj Zizek talks about, like the taste, the Coca-Cola, Monero has more of that in it than fiat. The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, if you guys ever go watch Zizek's whole film about that, about the intrinsic values inside capitalist products, Monero's is way higher. It's beats Coke and Pepsi every time.
There's another thing, and
we got to get this man on a full Monero talk, though. By the way, just throwing that out there.
Should you be so spoiled, right? Like, it's like one of the things, and Yuli was one of the first guys that I met up with when I got there, other than Drunk Dial Me. And I think that the thing that this show brings to the table that a lot of people have missed is the fact that art and memes are what burn into the consciousness and make people comfortable with these ideas that Encourageable here is discussing, right? And one of the things that I appreciated so much about, you can see from his hat there, Yuli definitely, like, he takes the local art style, makes it his own, and puts the message that you're after, right? So it wasn't that long ago that I forgot what guest it was, but if we use it, we win, right? And to bring it into like the native tongue in the native art style, right? And to have that logo, that brand, like built right into it, right? It's a glorious thing, because that's what's going to that's the seed, right? The seed isn't the tech, the seed isn't the utility, the seed isn't any of that stuff. You have to approach it at a subconscious level, like, this is normal now, this is a thing, and you'll be seeing more of this. And then when they see it at a vendor's table, or when they understand like what culture this is coming from, there's a certain level of trust that's built by seeing these imagery, so, and I would imagine Yuli has a lot to say on this topic, and I'd love to hear from him about it.
Oh man, that was one of the things that got me like super excited about the whole Monerotopia experience this year. Was
I gotta cut Ulysses off for 1 second though, because let's run the special guest segment. Tux, let's make Ulysses our special guest this week.
Ulysses for president.
All right, let's do it.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, Ulysses was definitely one of the MVPs down. I have to say one of, because there were other. I mean, Alaska was an MVP as well. I knew he'd come up
handle this guy, man.
I knew he'd come up strong again, but he always seems to overwhelm me with so much more love than I had even anticipated. Greatly appreciate the efforts of Alaska, but yeah, Ulysses right from the beginning. Ulysses designed all the graphics for the swag, the mugs we made, the backdrop for the conference, stickers that we printed, and then he got involved in so much more, and just creating the signs for the conference, which is actually an important aspect that we improved upon this year, and then just working with us to onboard the vendors and being a part of it and kind of molding the conference this year. So Ulysses,
designs
Matt,
were very cool.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. Yeah,
I had a blast doing it. Like, honestly, this was last year. I don't know if people recall, but I did that like seed puzzle, right, where I was going to do like a live bit of art, and I was putting seeds in it. That was like at the moment. So it felt really good to have like a little bit of like lead time, and it's like, all right, cool, I've got this idea. How do I make this a little bit more cool and finished and polished, and like I'm really happy with the way everything came out. So
I mean, we didn't even get the word. I don't know. Are you in a position to bring up the designs? I don't know if you're.
I've got JPEGs with me. I can show them on my screen.
We didn't even really get the word out well on the contest itself, right? So there's that. That was one of our technical issues in dealing with the virtual conference, and because we didn't have the XMRchat thing worked out, because we didn't want the stream to be public. So yeah, we did give the instructions at one point, right?
Yeah, we did. We mentioned that there was going to be puzzles with rules and all that, and I think the rules that we kind of came up with is people would submit their guesses through XMRchat.
Yeah.
And that way we could keep track of it, and we wouldn't have to worry about like seed phrases. It'd just be a good puzzle hunt around the designs for the event. So we have 3 puzzles now for you guys.
And I haven't checked XMRchat in that regard, but I don't think anybody sent in a guess. But basically, were we telling them to send it to xmrchat.com/MoneroTalk or /Monerotopia? I don't think it matters, right? It's just
I think Monero Talk. I think we ended up.
Yeah, so / Monero Talk. If you have access to the artwork, to the banner, that was the backdrop. I mean, it's on the videos. If you that is a puzzle, and if you decipher it, it turns into a phrase. It's not a 25-word seed phrase or 16-word seed. It's just a phrase. I don't even know how many words. But if you decipher the correct phrase and you send it to xmrchat.com/MoneroTalk as a super chat, along with your Monero receive address, the first person to guess that correct phrase will win a Monero prize. And then we have that also happening with the bags. I don't know if we want to bring up the designs, you can, let's see, just so people know what we're talking about. And the mug, right? The VIP mug. So
yeah, where is that?
Get the word out there on that.
So yeah, everybody who went to Monerotopia, if you haven't checked out your swag, which I doubt you have, this is actually a puzzle.
Perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
So here we go. This is a puzzle. In here, there's a key and a cipher, and that's about all the hints I'll give you.
So yeah, if you got your swag bag at home, you could try to decipher that and send your guess in at xmrchat.com/MoneroTalk. Put the guess, whatever you think that the phrase was that you deciphered, and plus your Monero receive address.
I still have mine.
Right.
We talked about it there. I still have mine. I actually plan on doing this. I just
all right. Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, everybody there was
got
having such a blast. I'm not sure like how many people were like, oh, I need to sit down and like figure out like my history of ciphers.
We didn't tell people till like the third day. I think the fourth. I think it was like the last day we finally told people, right? Like we didn't officially like explain what the hell was going on. So
this is also another puzzle. So if you received one of these mugs, there's a puzzle in here as well.
A word. I have that. Mine's. Oh wow.
And then the third one is the backdrop, the stage backdrop.
Yeah, I put it up on my website, so uly.xyz. Everybody can see the designs there as well.
And this is one of the things that I was getting at about like the way that artists bring a whole nother level of intrigue, right? Where there's now like this element that stays in the conscience, right? So people are kind of working through things like puzzles, or, you know, when they come in and on their hat rack or whatever is their Monerotopia hat, like it keeps it in the forefront of the conscience. There's a few gentlemen that I met that, you know, they weren't there to be like devs or guests or whatever, as far as like stage guests. They were there to just enjoy the conference. And in fact, I think pretty much all of them, like anybody that I hung out with for any given period of time, like we're still talking. And I mean, we're talking a lot, right? And, you know, they're asking questions about like, okay, what's the next thing I can do in privacy tech? What's the next thing I can do? You know, asking like how people are doing, like when is another chance that we could get to hang out like in smaller groups and stuff. Like building these relationships, people congregate around the culture. And this is one of the reasons why, you know, like meme shitcoins, right? They go to the moon because they catch the cultural zeitgeist based on, you know, some stupid like dog token thing or whatever. And I think Monero got much further in the tech heavy like and economic space. And we have to find ways to help the artist community catch up. And, you know, I mean, Yuli doesn't need to catch up, like he's right there, right? But, you know, we need a small army of people like that to capture the cultural zeitgeist, and it needs to be our own, right? And I was half joking when I put in XMRchat about like, no, we shouldn't comply. We totally shouldn't, you know, like get some kind of ruling like, oh, Monero is legal now. Because, I mean, and maybe we should. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad idea, but the idea being, imagine if culturally speaking, we capture this zeitgeist of like, Monero has turned its back on all of you regulators and just moves on anyway. And we have all of this cool art and all of this cool culture that goes along with it. It could almost work to our advantage. But the thing is we have to find ways to facilitate, you know, artists just being able to do their thing, right? And a shameless plug to Uli, which is uly.xyz, right? Where you can find all kinds of incredible things that he happens to be working on. And then it would make it okay for other artists to join the ranks, right? When they see him being successful, when they see people interested in his work and so on, it opens the door for other people to expand. Or if Incorrigible would hold up the card again, right? The card is bland. It's blank. It's boring, right? The tech is sound. It works. It integrates with the apps. And then people see this black card, which, I mean, has its own like Monero, you know, it's just black, right? But it needs art on it. Everything needs art on it. So when people see it, they're like, that's a Monero card. That's real money. It has real money on it, right? And it needs to sell the idea when you pull it out. I mean, think about how people get their personalized Visa cards and MasterCards and all of that stuff. People love to personalize things, even if it's not their own art, right? We need to do the same thing. You know, I wanted to take a bunch of, you know, just beater cars and fix them up where they drive again, and just like tag them with all kinds of Monero art and just be driving up and down the streets, like, because people look and they say, what's that? You know, like, the art is the thing that draws the people into this space more than anything else, right? I mean, you can see how like game-changing tech like full chain membership proofs, the only people who even give a damn are Monero people, right? Like, they don't, the people don't care, and it's great, and I want to see it succeed, but the people are looking at what's the art, what's the usability, and then you got your gains bros and all that stuff. That's why, you know, leading Monerotopia and Monero Talk with things like the price report, it brings the mind of the investor into these places, right? Good news, bad news, doesn't matter. It's like, my people are here, right? And we need to do the same thing with the culture.
I have an idea. About it. I want to crash South by Southwest. So I did an expo there a few years ago for my web hosting company, and it's a perfect venue for this because it like congresses all these things. But I want to tell you guys a story about these hustlers that were in front of our hotel, and they sold my business partner a QR code for $20 because the way the hustle classically works is, as we're upcoming artists and we sell CDs. Would you buy one of my rap CDs? Me and my buddies we're an upcoming band. Buy one of the CDs, and they get in your face. They're very intimidating and stuff like this. But these guys were so slick. They weren't even selling a burned CD. They were selling a QR code to their YouTube page. Give me $20. Help an aspiring artist. They weren't the artists. They literally got my buddy to whip out a $20 bill for a QR code. We need them to adopt Monero, and so. Some whales, get with me and Yuli, and we're going to crash South by this next year. I want to create like a faucet. So another thing I saw when I was there was a C4 energy drink. Idea. C4 energy drink. They were giving them away like crazy. Same with White Claws, just giving them away like crazy. I'd like to have a kind of backpack vendor faucet. So it's like you find the plug, right? The plug, he gives you some Monero, but now you can go and find these other hidden vendors throughout. Just think about it, guys. Just think about it.
I love leave it to Swoops. We need more scammers.
Yeah. Well, as soon as they imagine, because you give everybody in Austin a kind of taste for this. South by is that magical kind of energy. Everything's nutty and kooky. And then the hustlers are like, oh, damn, I can sell dope with this too. It'll just naturally go crazy. It'll just like wildfire, guys. I can taste it. And you're going to give Yuli some work. It's good stuff.
I was just going to say, like, one of the coolest things about Monerotopia that was walking around the marketplace that was happening around the event. Like, Monerotopia is in the middle of a market, which is, I think, super important. As I'm walking around, I'm seeing the hat. It's not blatantly Monero, right? It's just, it doesn't say Monerotopia or anything. It's just, it's a cool design for the event. But I saw vendors work with that hat on their stall. And it just felt really fucking cool to know it's like, oh, I know I can go talk to them. Oh, I could definitely go and, you know, spend my Monero there. Like, that
he's
felt
cool.
really fucking cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I liked buying weed with it. I definitely bought some weed from the vendor down there with the Monero.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Speaking of artists, Doug, whenever
I may or may not have done the same every day.
like next year, you guys need to have a standing like return policy for Tatiana whenever she wants to come back.
Oh yeah. She had a great time. She was very excited. I think she'll be participating again for sure.
Yeah, the live music in the middle of everything too was cool because, you know, it was everybody else also participating on that stage so wasn't it Saturday and Sunday, I think, right?
Yeah. Everything just seemed to come together. We had a ton of. That's what I was saying. There's so many different things going on at the same time. Alaska was kind of saying this. Like everybody had their unique Monerotopia experience because there were just so many different like paths to go down. Whether you hung out in the dome the entire time, or you were in the marketplace, or you were watching the live music, you were in the back hanging out with the projects. It was just like there's so many little ways to get lost in Monerotopia.
So I have less than 10 minutes before I have to go, but there was a story, and a lot of the people on the stage right now have heard it, but for the sake of the viewer, I just think it's super important that people understand one particular thing that I observed while I was there, which is there were people, and I'm going to share one story, but it's one of many, right? So a person who had met one of our guest speakers at a different conference in Serbia had heard about Monero in passing. And this person, she's an older lady, and she it was just like 2 sentences about Monero. I know a lot of you saw this happening in real time, right? She had heard in passing a couple of sentences about how Monero was like the anarchy currency and it was like freedom money. So she goes back home to Fairbanks, okay? Tries to reach out to these people. She doesn't know how to use email. She doesn't know how to use a computer. She doesn't know how to use a cell phone, right? But she's interested in the freedom. And that's how she heard about Monero, was the freedom, okay? So she's blowing up this guest speaker, trying to figure out, where can I learn about Monero? How can I use Monero? How can I get Monero, right? A person who doesn't even know how to use a smartphone, okay? And after he pretty much gives up because trying to teach somebody about technology over email from thousands of miles away, it's just not working. So he says, go to Monerotopia, right? She flies all the way from Fairbanks to Mexico City, shows up at the door, and I'm working at the door at the time, helping out with the people who are working the door. She comes in, she says, is this the place where I can learn about how to use Monero? So keep in mind, she wasn't even sure that she was going to the right place. Flew halfway across the world to show up to this conference. And she's like, I don't have any Monero. Can I pay in dollars? And they're like, yes, of course you can pay in dollars. To which I say, is there a reason that you didn't get it online? She's like, I don't know how to use the internet. A woman who does not know how to use the internet is there to learn how to use Monero because she heard about how it has freedom. And so she buys her ticket, and then she goes, okay, so who can I talk to learn about how to use Monero? And of course, the door staff, who was amazing, by the way, said, well, that guy over there knows a lot about how to use Monero, which is true. I use it a lot in my day-to-day life, right? So she comes over and talks to me. I asked her how she even figured out about this place. And she's like, oh, well, I heard about it from Pavel, right? At a different conference that he was not there to talk about Monero, right? But, you know, he just mentioned it at a different conference, and she flew all the way to figure it out. So we spent an hour and a half or more learning about how to use a smartphone. And this woman was adamant. She knew about like KYC laws and all of that stuff from her interest in anarchy. And she, even though she knows nothing about the crypto space, insisted that she get KYC free Monero and she know how to use it correct because she knows the laws, right? She's an anarchist who's anti-KYC for freedom reasons. It's not about, she didn't hear it about it from Bitcoin and all that other stuff.
She heard about it because she was a freedom enthusiast. Okay. And so I say, well, the right way to use this is with graphene, and you're going to have to learn how to use a smartphone. And so more than an hour and a half of learning how to use a web browser and a smartphone. And then she goes out and learns how to use it some more on her own. And then the next day she spends an hour and a half learning how to do other things. And then the next day she learns about how to use Signal and Monero and all of this others. By the end of the conference, she's buying and selling things from the vendors in Monero. She's like buying Monero from the vendors with pesos and dollars, and she's buying stuff with Monero. And this woman's eyes were lit up like a star. She was so happy. And one of the things that we don't acknowledge in the space, there are people who have been into freedom and anarchy for decades, long before crypto, long before. And the idea that there would be a like not Federal Reserve, not banking cartel freedom money, these people have been waiting for it for 50 plus years, some of them. And when they finally saw it in action at Monerotopia, one of the things she said to me is just learning how to use Monero and seeing this was worth every penny I paid, flights and all. Because the cause of freedom has been waiting for something like this for a very, very long time. Now, I still stay in touch with this woman, and now she wants to build like a freedom hostel, right? An off-grid hostel. Pay in Monero, and she wants to do all kinds of other things. But the reason why she's invested in this is because she saw the freedom in action. You know, and I've been to a lot of crypto conferences and so on, and none of them could hold a candle to what was going on at Monerotopia. On a shoestring budget with a bunch of volunteers, real freedom was produced. And at these crypto conferences with big tycoons and investors and so on, it just gets more and more regulated, more and more banks involved, more and more KYC and nonsense. This culture is going a different direction. And this culture is bringing the freedom enthusiasts to us. And this year, I saw lots and lots of people. In fact, Swoops was not at the last Monerotopia. This is a real-life dev interested in freedom and tech and all of that stuff. Let's say allegedly, possibly a dark market connoisseur, maybe. I don't know. It's none of my business, right? But they're being drawn to this technology because it works to progress human freedom. It's not number go up, Lambo win nonsense. It's real freedom happening in the real world.
This is I actually got a picture of Alaska teaching her the graphene phone. I got it on film, so that and it
nice.
Yeah, we blew her mind.
Share it to Doug's Twitter so you can get that out there.
Yeah.
Word, I will.
I interviewed a young mother and her like teenage son, and it was their second time at Monerotopia. They were at the first one. And they came back this year, and they were just blown away. And I interviewed them, and she totally got it when I asked her, like, you know, what is Monerotopia all about? And she completely, like, you know, it was like one of us, like, trying to pitch to somebody what Monerotopia is. And so I was like, wow, all right, mission accomplished, and very excited and trying to get her friends and the people she knows to try to attend next year. So that was one of the validating moments for me. I was like, all right, we're not just here like spinning our wheels, pretending to be freedom people. We're actually making an impact here. People are understanding the concepts, they're adopting them, they're seeing the value in it, and that's what was most promising to me.
I think you can really tell with these conferences just by looking how many people are wearing suits. Because the more people wearing suits, the less good it's going to be.
Hey, I buy my suit at the thrift store, so you got to be careful with that judgment.
You pirate costume discount in the suit. A shortwave didn't see it, but I was in a pirate costume.
Fantastic. Who else? Anybody else we have that wants to jump up and tell us?
I have to go anyway, so I'm going to give up my spot. I got to spread the word, ladies and gentlemen. But God
have
bless.
a good one. Have a good one.
All right, man. We'll hopefully see you next week.
Go forth, Apostle.
I do have a topic I did want to bring up. I have a friend who's about to be doing a Title 42 federal case, and yeah, I can't talk too much about it yet, but you're going to be seeing it on probably Kuno. I've been talking to him about fundraising, his legal fees and stuff like this, and it's definitely a if you've ever been arrested for pot, you've been through it. And it just kind of went to my flagpole when I was talking to him about this. There's a lot of non-standard legal work that we need. There's a lot left to do in clown world. We're not done there yet. And there's a lot to bring that and bridge it to like Web 2 and Web 3 is the way I think about it. But the crowdfunding with Monero has a capacity to fund these legal cases. Like we were talking about getting relisted. And now is a pivotal time. Like whoever is going to be elected is going to be crypto friendly. I mean, look, Elon already is. We might hate him, but he's on our side enough. And so we need to start.
We got to get him off that Doge.
Yeah,
got to get him off that Doge.
Yeah, of course. But we got to start with litigation. And Monero allows us to have these we can play the game in reverse. For years, there's been all these shadow funds and puppet money pumped into the government and into lobbying. Here in Colorado, I'm a lobbyist. I'm what's called a volunteer lobbyist for hemp. And every state has these kind of things, volunteer lobbies. Like I said earlier, all the technology's there. We just need to start getting the mycelium tendrils to connect. And so there's using Monero to crowdfund legal attacks that directly help our cause is an important vector that needs to be promoted and thought of more. Because I mean, the whales sitting on their money aren't going to do much. There's a lot in the economy, and if we set up the lawyer and then fund it privately, you know what I mean? Let's use the same strategies back on them. So underutilized and needs to be brought more into the light. We need to merge clown world and dark web together.
Yes, I agree. I think we need to fight the fight on the front lines. In addition to being, working tunneling underneath them, we need to also fight on the front lines as well. Because I think there's ground that could be taken at this point, given the political climate right now.
Well, and it's a skilled talent, law work, building people to use the economy. It's like I want somebody to accept Monero. Law work, yes, it takes 20 years to get there. It is real work, but we all know a lawyer just talks, right? It's the kind of work that is easily exchanged for something like Monero. It's like, I can give you this, and then all you do is proofread my legal works. But it fits really well, and Monerica already has maybe 3 or 4 attorneys listed. If we know any good attorneys in our private business lives, we should probably, hedge them into this. Be like, hey, there's a demand for this kind of work, and
yes, 100%.
And all skilled labor.
All
skilled labor, and especially that apparatchik kind of skilled labor. We want them on our side anyway.
Yes, great, fantastic points, man. Are you on XMR Bazaar yet? Do you have a profile up there? Are you?
I'll get it added. We're listed on Monerica, so if that's where I need to be as XMR Bazaar, then I will.
Monerica as well. For sure.
You need to be on both. You don't need to be on one or the other. You need to be on both.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a pickup in XMR Bazaar. Shortwave, have you been paying attention? I haven't really been paying much attention, but I just checked now. It looks like we're at like 1,300 listings. That's pretty good.
I have been paying attention, and we are now at 80% of MoneroMarket.io's listing.
Oh wow,
now.
You're really paying attention. Okay.
Yeah, I'm keeping up with it, and it's amazing to see that we're up to 80%, and it's only been 6 months. I mean, you launched it in mid-May, late May, something like that.
Yeah.
So in just this amount of time, we're already 60% of Monero markets.
We have some big ideas with that as well, obviously, right? We want to make it. I think we could really tap into this concept of opting out as well. Obviously, that we're all into, but growing that idea as well in the zeitgeist. Enlarging that camp, right? That's what Monerotopia really is at the end of the day. That's what that camp is. It's everybody that's interested in that concept of opting out. So people may not even be kind of Monero first, but they're there because they are into some other privacy tech, but they believe in this idea of opting out of the system and using some form of digital cash that can't be controlled. And I think now is a good time to really grow that general concept. People are starting, like we saw, right? We saw with Joe Rogan. What's his name was on there talking about how all these Silicon Valley guys are being debanked when they're working on crypto. This kind of realization on a more mainstream level, right? Not just the extreme liberty-loving folks like ourselves, but just regular people opening their eyes to the benefits of opting out of the system and not allowing, the state-controlled system to leech off of them, right? I think that idea has started to go a little bit more mainstream.
Everything is mainstream until it's not, and everything's not until it is mainstream. Everyone I've spoken to, in all my normie friends, once I explain to them the benefits, there's a moment where it's like, well, okay, why do I give a shit? And then it's well, TapJet, and there's all these hidden markets and expat nation. Once you tell them the colorful story, then it's a FOMO thing, and then it becomes mainstream real quick. It's like, wait a minute. You went to Mexico City and you did what? It's like, yeah, and you didn't. Great. Have a great time with your dead ass job. The people do want to do it. The only difference between us freedom-minding people and most people is a slight, maybe a gene or something. Somewhere our risk reward is just a little different than theirs. But it's the same system. And the second there's enough adoption, it already is. Everybody I've talked to is like, yeah, I'll download Cake Wallet. Sure, send me the money. No, nobody's been like, nah. Everybody wants it, and it now is an important time. But that's why the last mile vendors, people who are willing to, in convincing people like me. I've been an early adopter of crypto. I was trading Bitcoin when it was $125. I was mining it on one of my old shit station machines, and I have had love-hate moments with crypto. Like when Alaska met me a few years ago, he was telling me about smart contracts. I'm like, get this out of my face. This is stupid. I'm a normie tech world bro. I don't care about any of that crap. So we all kind of go through phases of adoption. Monero has impressed me recently. It's re-impressed me. One of my contacts in the world of tech actually was able to use Monero to leave China at the beginning of this Ukrainian nonsense. It was a one-liner. Russia and China are friends now. I have to leave China. And he had to come back to the United States. He had a whole life established over there. He loved the Chi-Com state, and it was terrifying for him to leave. And he was able to liquidate most of his wealth and bring it to America. And to me, that was like, dang, it works. Like, that's the strongest use case I can imagine if it can defeat the CCP. So it's real. It works. I know. I'm sure you guys have similar like miracle work cases of helping people get out of war zones and things like that. So it's the real deal. It is not a shit coin. And as soon as everybody kind of gets that, it'll be really quick. It's already really quick. The same people buy metals. The same people are interested in gold. Maybe not everybody's to our level of understanding. Some of the things that we worry about aren't as big of a deal or like a deal breaker. But I believe in it a lot more after coming back from Monerotopia. I'm full zealot, full religious mode.
I often with normies, I quickly get to the point that it's the only crypto that governments around the world are coordinating to delist from exchanges. Whether that may start to change due to policies, but ask yourself why. Why are they doing that, right? And if you think that's a good thing, then sure, you shouldn't be interested in Monero. But if you stop and think, wait a minute, why do they fear this tool so much? Why don't they want regular people to have this in their hands? Then you might want to consider using Monero.
You guys mentioned relisting on exchanges, and while that may sound like a good thing, I'm not sure it is, because the more exchanges that it gets relisted on, the more manipulated it can be. So like right now, they have a really hard time manipulating it because it's traded on Havino, it's traded on XMR Bazaar, it's traded on all these decentralized platforms, these ways that
I think there's a little bit of obviously, well, there's proper ways to list it on exchanges too, right? They could do proof of funds. We need to push that initiative too. Kraken should be showing proof of Monero fund. Why not? If I was running an exchange, you don't think if I was running an exchange, I'd be showing proof of like why can't they step up and do that? Why can't they step up and do that? And then why can't we make that the norm, right? Obviously, there's still some level of trust there. I don't know how. Well, I mean, you could do it pretty perfectly, right? But you know, I think there's this little bit of cope from the Monero side. I totally, completely agree, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here with the strategy of we keep building our own world outside of theirs. And that will inevitably work, and it is working, and it's gaining traction, and it's proving concept. But at the same time, I think it's naive, and we're only shooting ourselves in the foot by not taking advantage of normie land and
training wheels. We need to give them a little scooter with some training wheels.
Yeah, bring them over to us, and centralized exchanges are one means to that. We could say, okay, but they're bad overall because they can manipulate. But I think there's more benefit in people having access and being able to get it. I wouldn't be opposed if Coinbase added Monero tomorrow to their exchange, and people in New York can now just as easily get Monero with their banking account as they can get Litecoin and Bitcoin and Dogecoin. I think that would be a good thing. I've always said this, and because that should be the onboarding crypto between the the AML KYC world and the outside crypto world, right? Because there's no better way to move from the centralized system to the outside through Monero, right? You purchase Monero on Coinbase, and now you take off your Monero, and they lose the trail from there. And you could even go into other cryptos from there. Like why is the main branch the KYC AML branch? Everybody buying whatever it is, Bitcoin, Litecoin, moving out through those traceable currencies into crypto. I mean, why not offer people
options,
the more
desirable
bridge that gets you headed down the right path,
and
right?
a spectrum between privacy and ease of use. We have to look at it more like a spectrum. I like extreme privacy too, but I also understand that like some people are just idiots, and they no matter what, they want daddy to spoon feed them. They like it. Some people just like daddy, so I'm not going to not give them daddy. We need to think of it as a spectrum between these things. And although I do agree with the fundamental point, we don't want it to be outside influence. I don't want Monero to be another shitcoin. I think it's naturally resistant enough. Having it listed would be helpful. I can see your point too. I'm not going to say that either is the best or the dogmatic way, but I like the idea of thinking of it like a spectrum. And that was one of the things I learned down there. And when I talked to my friends about it.
Yeah, I don't know, Shortwave. Maybe you disagree. I mean, I get the point that this allows them to manipulate, right? We saw that happening, or at least that's what we think what was happening, right? And the theory seemed to make a lot of sense. But why can't we have Kraken showing proof of funds, right? Why can't we have Coinbase adding Monero here in New York City, giving people access? Well, that's one of the things that's held it back for sure. I just want to see more people be able to get their hands on it.
Yeah, I definitely see your point. But another thing is like another thing I worry about with the relistings is that so we get it relisted, and this administration or whatever is really great, and then somebody else gets into power and starts delisting it again, and then we're right back to where we were. Because every time,
but are we though? At that point, it's really Streisand effect, right? Because now you've had people that like are now they're like us now, right? Maybe they went on Coinbase, they got some Monero, they're like, oh yeah, this is great, and then the government comes and delists it. They're not going to give up on it at that point. They're going to be like, wait a minute. They're going to be like more passionate. They're going to be like, why are they going after Monero? What the fuck?
Because like Binance delisted Monero in February, and it promptly dropped 30%. It came back, of course, like it always does. But Binance, biggest exchange in the world, delists Monero, and it promptly drops 30%.
Yeah, but that's kind of like China banning crypto, right? It only works so many times. So even if they were to relist and then eventually, I think it loses its ability to even manipulate the price at that point. Yes, because it's known that it's going to survive no matter what. Sorry, buddy, go ahead.
Most of that is likely just short-term traders, because like the people that are in Monero for Monero, like none of us sold when that happened. Like, we all got more. So the reality is that most of that is just short-term oscillation, And there's a good chance that a lot of that is actually just like the cabal themselves trading as well. Also, it's a good idea to mute your microphone if you have background noise, guys.
That's why I was asking earlier about leverage, not to get into degen leverage, but because you could swing trade Monero because it's so darn stable. It generally hovers within about 6 to 10% of the 365-day moving average, and so you could wait until it gets to, say, 6% below it, get into it with a slight leverage position, and then wait and then sell it off when it gets 6% above, and you help to stabilize the price out even more. That's the only reason I was asking about leverage.
Yeah, I was actually curious about what your context there was. That's definitely something you could do. Again, you need a centralized exchange. You need a custodian to manage that leverage contract. And at the moment, it's probably Kraken, but I think was it Agoradesk? Which one? There was a platform that was offering leverage with Monero at some point. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if they're still doing it or not. You can totally do that. Just know that at some point. So on the one hand, maybe you get some significantly negative delisting news, right? Like Kraken delist in the United States. Like you'll probably watch the Monero price take another massive drop for a period of time. So right, if you're using leverage there and Monero drops 30% or 50%, which is possible, and if you're on 3x leverage and Monero drops 30%, you're going to get liquidated. You're going to get margin called. Or on the converse side, which the side that we all hope is that, okay, maybe you're at those, those moving average boundaries. Maybe you're using a Z-score, right? Something statistical, whatever, like a standard deviation. And you're like, oh, okay, we're at the top of the range here. I'm going to go short, and then maybe you go 2x short and then Monero just smashes towards the side because it's a bull market. You could totally get wiped out, right? So obviously, just know that that's a possibility. And, for the last 2 years, you could have leveraged that strategy to great success with Monero and traded the thing really well. But at some point, that's going to fail, so just make sure that if you have a trade that fails, that it doesn't wipe out your gains that you made in the past doing that.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Basically being a market maker in Monero to keep the price to stabilize out, because that's my biggest thing. That's the hill I want to die on. Is I want Monero to be an actual stable currency that's not going to fluctuate. That's why I price my items in Monero at the 365 moving average. I had to change my price 0.6% over 4 months.
This is your fault then. You're the one that's been stabilizing our price.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the one who's been. It's my fault. I'll take the blame for that.
Another idea as you were talking is so yeah, you could use leverage to try and help stabilize the price by just taking leverage on those positions as you approach some kind of boundary condition. The other thing you could do quite simply is just add liquidity to the decentralized exchanges. The deeper the order books means the higher liquidity, and the more liquidity that something has, the harder it is to move the price, which is why the dollar is usually very stable because it has insanely large liquidity across global markets. So even huge players, players worth billions and billions of dollars, even those guys, when they move in and out, yeah, they're affecting the price, but it's not nearly as much. It's not that great. Whereas in smaller markets like Monero, for example, if a billionaire wanted to come buy up Monero and take a big Monero position, like our price would skyrocket. It's really that simple, just because we don't have a ton of liquidity. So liquidity implies volatility, and like Bitcoin's highest price gains were when it had its lowest liquidity. So yeah, if you want a stable Monero, we need deeply liquid markets. Speaking
of exchanges, though, I have noticed recently higher volume, like higher 24-hour volumes in the exchanges. Normally, I was used to seeing 50 and 60 million US dollars a day worth of Monero being traded, and I've recently been seeing a lot of 150, 120, 100 million dollars a day. So it seems like there's more exchange volume going on as well.
It's probably all the global unrest. Like I said, my personal success story that I know involves global unrest, and Monero is just really good at that use case. I have to go, but I love you guys. I love all of you, and I support all of you, and I'm here for Web 2 or any of that kind of normie clown world stuff if anybody wants to work on it. But keep up the good work, everybody. We're going to win. We're going to win. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
Have a great one. We are winning. That's the thing, is we are winning.
Yeah, maybe I don't look at volume enough when on the price report. That's always something I forget. I guess I set my mind up and I was like, crypto volume is bullshit. It's a lie. I don't believe it. So I stopped looking at it. Maybe that was a bit too far to the one extreme.
I mean, it's not something I look at very often, but I'll just glance at it or whatever and be like, oh, that's interesting. Or why is it doing that? That's interesting.
I'm going to make a note to remember to look at volume from now on. Like, we'll look at it sometimes and then I'll forget about it. I need to put that as like a permanent sticky.
And buying and selling items from Monero also improves liquidity as well, because you've got a person that's saying, hey, I'll sell you these batteries for this price no matter what happens. I don't care.
Yeah, that's an interesting vector that you've taken there. I think it's cool.
All right. We got anybody else that wants to jump on, talk about anything?
Unfortunately, Laskanon's already left. He is our dead air prevention.
I mean, there's a lot we could talk about, guys. Monerotopia was freaking epic. Where we do the next one, obviously, I'm thinking, same place is like kind of my current top choice right now. We're at the Roma again in Mexico City, and try to build things up between now and when we do it again, so that we have even more momentum with the locals and with the vendors, and leave a mark, like we're saying. So when we leave, that the momentum continues.
I was just thinking that same thing, because you've done it twice now there. If you continue doing it there for a while, that marketplace, at least once a year, knows that this big event is going to happen with Monero. And as you said, you went down there, a month before Monerotopia, and there was still some people, some market vendors offering to buy with Monero. And so that will continue to happen.
Caesar, who was cooking up a storm at this one as well. He was barbecuing things. He's a big Monero guy. He'll be ready for the next Monerotopia for sure. We got Drunk Dial. Let me bring Drunk Dial up. See if he wants to jump up.
Oh, hey.
Dial, you there? Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, great. Amazing
another MVP, another MVP, Drunk Dial. Oh my God! Thank you so much, man, for everything you did.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, well, dude, give us a little bit of your debrief. I mean, you were in the trenches from when we started early in the week, getting things going. You saw it from beginning to end. What was your Monerotopia take?
Everywhere I turned, I met the most interesting person I had met in my entire life. It just happened all week long. I swear before God and everyone else that by next Monerotopia, I will be fluent in Spanish.
Nice. Yeah, I did see you. I did see you practicing quite a bit with different vendors throughout Mexico City. I gotta make that pledge as well. That's got to be on my bucket list for sure. No excuses. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I think I onboarded maybe half a dozen. I've got a bad connection, I guess, but I just wanted to say thanks for everything. It was amazing and great job, and I'm so happy I got to meet so many people in real life.
Awesome. Thank you, Drunk Dial. Yeah, you were tremendous help. Look forward to seeing you at the next one, I hope, as well, and we'll grow it from here. Yeah, guys.
All right, well, I'm going to drop since my connection's bad.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're kind of coming in and out. No worries. Yeah, so I would say at this point, Mexico City next year, Roma. We're at the Roma. Timing, we're not sure yet. We have family good family things we have to deal with soon, so that's gonna throw me off a little bit over here in terms of my timeline. I'll be working on everything still. I'll be working on XMR Bazaar, Monero Nodo, XMRChat, and planning Monerotopia at some point, but probably, we might push it back. Maybe instead of doing it in November, we would do it a little later. That's current thinking.
Speaking
maybe
of,
even like February, March.
well, I know you guys didn't want to go too close to MoneroCon, but speaking of Monero Nodo, based on last year and this year, where last year everybody was having to use the remote nodes and syncing was a problem, versus this year, how much improvement would you say that there was just based on doing that alone?
I mean, it was tremendous. Everybody that used that method where they connected their Wi-Fi, they used the Starlink Wi-Fi. We had 2 different Starlink Wi-Fi's going, and we had a Nodo connected to each. So we had a Monero Nodo 1 Starlink Wi-Fi and Nodo, and then we had a Monero Nodo 2 Starlink Wi-Fi and Nodo, and we connected the vendors to it. We connected a lot of the attendees to it, and those people that were in range hanging around the marketplace area. It worked very seamlessly. People were opening up once they were connected to that Wi-Fi network in the same Nodo, they really didn't have any issues using their wallets. So I think it was a great improvement. Obviously, I think there's more to even do there, but it worked pretty well. Worked pretty damn well, right? I mean, I don't know if anybody else had a different experience, but from my perspective, once you got on-to the Starlinks and connected to the Nodo, things worked pretty smoothly. Issues were, you're walking around the conference and now you're out of range of the Wi-Fi, and now you're connecting to a different Wi-Fi, so then you have to go change your node. Right now, maybe you're reconnecting back to like a cake node because the Nodo is no longer in range because it's on the other Wi-Fi. There's issues like that. But for those people that stayed in the marketplace area and stayed connected to those Wi-Fis and those Nodos, things work pretty well. As
much as it would kind of pain me to say it, something like the Google Wi-Fi mesh system might work really well for something like that, since it's like those routers are USB Type-C, and so you could just mesh everything to one Wi-Fi, like one Starlink or whatever, and then have like a bunch of mesh nodes all over the place, so that you're only connecting to one Wi-Fi and one Nodo, so you're not having to lose and drop. Yeah,
I mean, the only issue there is bandwidth, right? Which is why that's why we had the 2 Starlinks going. So it was good because some people were connected to the Wi-Fi from the venue, right? The venue's Wi-Fi. Some people were just connected to the local cellular network. And most people that were trying to actually actively transact were connected to the Starlinks and the Nodos. But, those same people are using their phone to, I don't know, watch a YouTube video or whatever, right? Like, hopefully not, but like they were using their phones on the Wi-Fi network as well. So there was a lot of bandwidth. That's the only issue, right? So,
gotcha.
So it's like, there's a kind of a bandwidth issue too. Like, I guess there's different ways to solve it. Have more Nodos, so the Nodos can be running on the other Wi-Fi networks as well too, even just the venue's Wi-Fi networks. That's another way to help solve the problem. But overall, it worked well. I mean, like, you could theoretically do that setup anywhere, right? You had Starlink. We could go freaking do Burning Man Monerotopia, like in the middle of some beautiful. Beautiful location.
I was thinking Porkfest, but yeah,
off the radar. We're all living off of each other with Monero, connected to the Starlinks. Just make a rule: you can't use your phone for anything other than running your Monero wallet. And we could all run smoothly off of it. So it worked. Guys, anything else? Otherwise, we'll close it out. I don't mind getting back to my Thanksgiving Day weekend here with fam.
Personally, you can close it out, on my opinion, but there's, I think, somebody else. So go ahead.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming on.
Anybody else? I just want to make sure we got everybody. Ulysses, anything
everyone else is already up here.
Okay. I just again want to reiterate how fucking cool this event was. everything that I kind of imagined, like, oh, I'm going to be a cypherpunk when I grow up. Like, this is the definition of it. Like, in the marketplace, surrounded by this with fucking Starlink and Nodos, and it's just, you know, I bought my woman a really nice piece of jewelry with Monero. Like, that's fucking awesome. So yeah, it was a fantastic event. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, we got to keep it alive too, right? And it can't just be the next one. We got to start like, so maybe even in the Monero Mexico chat is where we can really start to work on things to keep the momentum going down there for when we show up next time. Like I was saying earlier, I have a WhatsApp chat message going with basically almost every vendor that was there. That I was communicating with ChatGPT, and like got to keep that conversation going, and maybe we can get them to more regularly accept Monero. I mean, they have Cake Wallet on their phones. I'm sure if you went up to them tomorrow and they were down at Huerta again on the weekend, you could probably get them to accept Monero. So I think the work doesn't end, right? And we don't have to wait for it to begin months from now. It can begin today. We can start coordinating and starting to like keep the momentum going down there in Huerta for when we show up in a year and a half from now, that things are really, really moving along. So I'll leave it at that. That's my final takeaway. And Ulysses, man, thank you for everyone. Thank you for everything. Obviously, everybody else, we could thank people all day. I mean, so many people participated in this conference and helped to push it along in their own way. So thanks to everybody. And obviously, we'll be talking more about it throughout the year. I'm sure next episode and many thereafter. Conversation doesn't end here. It just begins. And we can make this more into a working group as well, right? That's kind of was always the vision with Monerotopia, the show. We talk about a lot of things, but maybe we could even be more productive here in how we talk about things, so we could organize efforts and get things moving, right? We talk about a lot of ideas, but maybe we could also begin to implement things and coordinate here live on the show, have these open meetings, and all work together and continue to grow the movement. All right, guys, we'll end it at that. Tux, if you want to go ahead and close it out.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.